I want to welcome everyone to the Pandemic Relief Business Sales and Marketing Conference. This is going to be a conference that's going to help you build your business, especially coming out of this pandemic. It's really important to know how to do that. There's three of us that are going to be teaching today. I'm going to be starting it with all about finding and attracting business people or others that you're looking for into your sales funnel. Now, that may be your website, that may be bringing them directly to you. Whatever it may be, we're going to be bringing those people to you. It's all about attracting business. So my goal today is I'm going to be using this funnel that you see here to figure out how to attract. And so I'm the attract side of things. Then Jim Carroll is going to be talking about the engage. He's going to be working with websites and SEO and things like that that will help you get your prospects engaged. Then with Mark, we're going to be doing the convert. He's going to be giving you some ideas of how to get this pandemic past you and convert customers quicker and get larger sales because of it. So let's get going. Got to get this so it'll work, go forward. There we go. All right, so first thing we're going to do is I'm going to be talking about the social media side of things. And I'm going to talk about the 8 top social media sites and how to utilize them to bring traffic to your website. Then I'm going to have Jim will be talking about the SEO, so I'm only going to cover that briefly. The third thing we're going to talk about is is using webinars and seminars and things like that to attract attention. And then I'm going to also talk about keeping track of how your social media is doing, whether that's internet reviews or what people are saying on groups and pages that you should be following. So let's get started. First off, the first thing I want to tell you is there are 3 game changers that have really been a big thing to make marketing work better for you. Part of that is, and number 1, is search engines. Google by far is the biggest, with 93% of all of the searches today are done through Google. Now, there are others like this. Number 2 is actually YouTube. Number 3 and 4 and 5 go down from there, and they're Yahoo and Bing and some foreign ones as well. But search engines have become extremely important and extremely big. Now, I'm not going to be going into this. That's more the SEO side that Jim's going to be covering. But let me tell you that it is a game changer and you need to pay attention to it. And we're going to talk a little bit about Google because Google does have a social media aspect to them. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. The second thing that is a game changer is social media. People just aren't on social media. They're glued to it. In fact, during this pandemic, they have basically almost tripled the average time that a person spends on the social media. Now, what social media is all over the place? And this is something else we're going to be talking about because you need to know exactly which social media your prospects hang out on. And so that's second. That's the social media. Number 3 is mobile. Mobile phones have taken over. Just 5 years ago, they were 35% of all searches and traffic on the internet. Today, it's 68% of all traffic on the internet is on a mobile device. And by the end of this year, they're saying it'll probably be 80%. So it's important to understand that, especially when Jim gets in there and he's going to be talking about the new mobile standards that you're going to need to pay attention to. So let's get on to this. Now, first thing I want you to understand is you've got to have a plan. If you're not planning for your future, you're not planning about how you're going to do your marketing, you're not planning on how your website's going to educate and convert people into people who want to do business with you, then you're just not going to succeed. Because without a plan, you're just wandering around hoping people find you. And trust me, The old adage, if you buy it, they will come, only works in the movies. Okay. Now let's talk about leveraging these three game changers that we just talked about. Let's start with my slides are all out of order, so you're going to have to pardon me, but I'm not going to change them now. Where we are going to start with social media. We're not going to be working with the others quite yet. Now, who are the big 8 social media players? Now, there are a lot of people who say, oh, no, this one needs to be in there. Oh, no, that one needs to be in there. Let me tell you, these are the top 8 as they pertain to business marketing. There are others like TikTok, who has a lot of traffic, but businesses aren't getting the results that they need quite yet. It will probably be in the top 8, maybe by the end of this year. So keep in mind that I don't talk about TikTok because of that, or there's WhatsApp, and there's all kinds of other ones that are out there. I'm not going to pay any attention to any of them unless they are already in the top 8 for getting business for business. Okay, so number 1, and these are not in any order. The biggest one with the most people on it is Facebook. Everybody knows that. It's 3 billion people on there with an average daily use. Currently at over 2 billion people are on there daily. Now, that's a considerable amount of people. That's 80% of the entire world's population is on there. The next one is YouTube, and I've had a lot of people say, oh, YouTube, that's not a social media thing. Yes, it is. When you play a video, you get the opportunity to comment on it underneath. And then the other people can comment on your comments, and the person who posted it can comment on it. That's what social media is about. It's all about getting comments, engagement going. And YouTube is the second strongest one out there in that area. So understand that. Don't discount YouTube. YouTube is actually one of the strongest things you can do. And there's a lot of people who are contending with YouTube, but they just don't have the clout that YouTube has. The next one is LinkedIn, great for businesses. We're going to talk a little bit about each of these a little more, but well, maybe not. Maybe I'll just talk about them now. LinkedIn is great for the business to business, but there are some that you won't be able to find on there. Like I was helping a person the other day, and he works business to business, and he teaches people how to do their jobs better. But one of the programs he has is to help the people who are in the construction trades. Guess what? No matter how high up in the construction trades you are, unless you're the president, you're probably not on LinkedIn, because none of these people jump in and get in there. So if you're trying to get to the head of a construction company, you might find them there. But here's the thing. They might be the head of the cement company, or they're the head of others. They're not going to be found there. You're going to need to do something else. But for sales, marketing, type people, the CEOs, COOs, those, then you can find them there. But you've got to pay attention to that. Okay. So Twitter is one that was going down and under until about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, when President Trump was running for office. He was tweeting all the time, and it created a buzz that helped build Twitter back up. Now, unfortunately, halfway through President Trump's administration, even though he was tweeting just as much as he had before, people were taking less and less or watching it less and less. And so Twitter is actually in the 7th position, going to the 8th position soon. So they're going downhill. They are still a viable product to market, but you've got to do it the right way. And your people need to be on there. And we'll talk about finding out that in a few minutes. The next one is Google. I mentioned Google earlier as a search engine, but Google has Google My Business, which is an extremely important thing for all business owners. If you're in business and you don't have Google My Business set up, you're missing out on a lot of opportunities for social media interaction, and it is where Google keeps all of your internet reviews. This is very important. You want those reviews. You want to be able to comment on them and go back and forth with people in talking about it, because it is a social area. It also is a place where Google's going to tell people your hours of business, what your business is about, maybe even put you up on the MAP program if you're a brick and mortar business. These are important things, and so you'll want to pay attention to the Google My Business account, which is part of Google. The next one is Pinterest. You know, quite a few years ago when it started, Pinterest was all about recipes and craft items. But today, they are all about anything you want to know about. You know, I was on there a few days ago and I noticed that fishing is number 3 after cooking recipes and crafts. Fishing is there. You'll also find all kinds of other things. I was amazed at how many different programs. Number 4, by the way, is weight loss. Number 5, I don't remember what number 5 is now, but you know what? These are all very strong things. And if you're in that industry, you need to pay attention to it. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I was working with a company there. They thought Facebook was the number 1 place that their prospects were hanging out on. As we did some surveying of their past customers or their present customers, we found that while they go to Facebook all the time, they're not looking for business answers there. Pinterest was number 1 for their industry. Their people always went to Pinterest when they were looking for that type of thing. And that shocked them. It didn't shock me as much because I know the power of what Pinterest can do. In fact, I remember what number 5 is. It's entertainment. And so it's the entertainment industry. So it's movies, it's actors, actresses, it's all the different people that work in the entertainment business. Well, this is a big one, and you need to pay attention if you're in the right industry. Now, if you're trying to sell insurance, you're probably not going to do it very well there. But if you're doing a lot of other things, you will. Auto mechanic. If you want to find out about to fix a car, YouTube is number 1. Pinterest is number 2. Did you know that? Most people don't. Next one up is Instagram. And Instagram's an interesting one because Instagram for businesses actually does more business than any of these other 8. We just talked about Facebook being big, Pinterest being big. Instagram, for the general population of businesses, does more for getting business than any of these others. You got to pay attention to Instagram. And Instagram has 4 different ways you can use videos to either attract new prospects or talk to the customers you already have. And, if you want more information on any of these, let's do a one-to-one and I'll be glad to help you with this. Okay, and my last one of the top 8 is Tumblr. Now, it's in the 8th position right now. It comes and goes up and down in this, and it's interesting how it works. But Tumblr is a microblog site, and it does have the advantage that it has is you can put a small blog on there, and then a lot of people will comment on it, and it finds more people to come and blog there or comment on your blog. And so it's done very, very well for a lot of companies. A few years ago here in Salt Lake City, we had a Comic-Con that was coming to town or was being put together for Salt Lake. And it was called the Salt Lake Comic-Con. Now they've changed their name and they still do these conventions. But, they had the largest convention ever held in Salt Lake City. Was their first convention. Now their second convention beat that again. but they had 118,000 people who showed up. And their number one way of marketing was Tumblr. Now, they also advertised on a lot of these others, not just advertised, but posted on all of these others. But Tumblr is who brought in more of their business than any of the other social media. So depending on what you're looking for, you've got to know these are the top 8 and figure out which ones are it. Now, I'm going to tell you something else that I know right now. If you're a t-shirt shop, you do custom t-shirts, or you have a line of t-shirts that you do, the 3 biggest ones for you is TikTok, Instagram, and Pinterest. I just mentioned a 9th one, TikTok, but they are only for a few of those people. So you got to pay attention to what your customers are going to be looking for. Now, what is the purpose of social media? Okay, let me tell you, it's all about building traffic. And most people, about 81%, they're driving traffic to their website. And their website becomes the funnel that's going to help them so that they do get more leads, more customers, and more of the repeat buyers. And you'll notice that even emails are over here as well. It's not just the 8 social media that I was just talking about. If you want traffic somewhere, send it to your website if you have a good website designed for that. Now, the other 3 areas that people send traffic to instead of just a website is to a phone number, to a storefront, and to an email address. Now, let me tell you, those 3 are okay, but there are some advantages to doing the website. And Jim's going to talk a lot about it, so I'm not going to cover it very much right now. But it's important to understand the website is your funnel today, and it's important for you to use. Now, here's that funnel again. Now, there are 3 main reasons to use social media for prospecting. One is you can retain your customers and get them to buy more from you. Now, I don't know about you, but I know when I have several products that I have that people buy, but usually they only know me for one product or another. It's important. A few years ago, I used to run the community newspapers. We had, of course, the advertising in the newspapers, but we had a lot of other things that we were doing at that time. So we had, of course, inserts that could be inserted into it. We had a postcard program where we could send out postcards. We had a direct mail program. We also had digital stuff like going to social media. We had putting together landing pages. We had a lot of different things. There was a total of 20 things that we did, but most everybody knew us for marketing in our newspaper. But you know what? If you want your customer to come back more often, let them know about the other products that you have that you can help them with. Because if you don't, no one else is going to tell them. And they're going to go elsewhere because they think, oh, you don't do printing of inserts. Yeah, we did. And we lost several contracts because people thought, oh, I need to go to this other company who will distribute it. We're going, but we do it too. And then, oh, in fact, we helped the customer build their flyer, but they weren't quite ready to get it going because they were on the wrong end of the quarter. And then when it was the right end of the quarter, they forgot about us and they went with one of our competitors. So you've got to understand that. You've got to know how to talk to your customer, and this is the best way to do it. And so just tell people about your other products that you have. Let them know, but only do one at a time. If you try to tell them a whole bunch of things, they're going to go, oh, okay, that's great, but they won't remember it. Where if you have a very specific item that you're going after each time you tell them about something new, that is important. The next thing, bring back your past customers. I have had several people who have done this. In particular, I was working with a auto shop not long ago, and they had more people who used to work with them than the people they do now. Now, a lot of companies have that problem a lot more, but what we did was we targeted those past customers with our social media. And we were able to bring back 25% of those. Now, some of them had moved out of state. Some had moved on. They didn't have the vehicles that they used to work with. But we got 25% of their past customers to come back. And whatever you believe in for your marketing, it's always better to retain your old customers or your current customers, bring back your old customers, because it's 10 times more expensive to find a new prospect than it is to keep the customers you've got. So take that. And it also takes the longest to get people to in the funnel is with new prospects. But they've got to understand that. So you've got to retain, you got to get those past ones back, and then also prospect for new ones. That's what social media will do. Now, I'm going to give you some ideas. These are the 6 most important social media steps that you can take. Okay. First, you have to know who your prospects are and where to find them. We started mentioning this earlier. This is important, and one of the best things you can do is go to current customers you have already dealt with and ask them, where do you hang out on social media? What is it you do when you're looking for business? Now, it's a different thing of when they want to hang out, like on Facebook, and just see what their friends are doing, but they pay very little attention to the ads. Other times, other people, the ads are important for them and they do pay attention. So you've got to ask your customers the right questions, and you got to find out. Like I have one customer, I think I mentioned them a minute ago. They found that they had more customers on Pinterest and Instagram, but they had most of their customers going to Facebook, but they weren't getting any business through the Facebook side of things. It was all coming from Instagram and Pinterest. And the reason why was they recognized Instagram and Pinterest as where they go to find out about new stuff. And that's the key thing. Where Facebook, they don't. While Facebook is also trying to be a search engine, they're not as strong. They're stronger in trying to compete with YouTube at this point, and that's not going very well either. So, but you got to know who your prospects are and where they hang out. And the best people to go to are those that are already your customers. Okay. Second thing, you need to invite them to your social media sites. Now, whether you're doing this by your email newsletter, and we're going to talk about more of this in a minute, but email, every time you go send out an email to your customers, be sure to have also join us on Facebook, join us on Instagram, join us on whatever it might be, so that they'll know they can follow you there and get more information about you. The next one is include your links from your website to your social media. A lot of people say, well, why would I push people from my website to my social media? Should be the other way around. Well, you got to have it both ways. And actually, number 6 is the other one going the other way. So you've got to have it so that you're pushing your people to the website, but you also need to have your social media on your website, pushing them to there. Here's why. You don't update your website every day, but you may update your social media every day. So if you want to talk to them every day, you're going to do that through social media, not through your website, because they're not going to go to their website as often. Now, you should be putting content on your website, and then you push them, you put an ad or a post that pushes people to that website. And like I said, that's number 6. Number 4 is post engaging content. I'm going to go into more detail about this after I get through with this. So let me come back to that. Number 5 is use a call to action from time to time, but not every time. Let me tell you, one of the things that I, as a social media marketing manager, have found that people stick with just one of three different types of posts. One is they are always selling to people. Call to action, call to action, call to action. No one likes to be sold to all the time, and people will turn off following you. So if you're having a problem where you're not picking up new followers, you're losing followers, it might be because of that. The second one that people use all the time is they're educating. They're educate, and they never put a call to action in there. In fact, I had one site that I was working with, they educated them really well about one program that they had, and it was, people were going, wow, that's great for education. But then they went to their competitors to buy it because they didn't even tell them that they did. This is important, to have a call to action from time to time, but don't do it every time. Number 6 is to link to your website from your social media. This is where your traffic comes from, to go to your website. Now, your website and your social media should work hand in hand. You should be putting content on your website. You should be promoting that with posts, and that sends them here. But then you should also be saying, hey, see more content over on our social media, and then post more content that is very relevant. Let's talk about that relevant content now. That's number 4, content, create engaging posts. Now, there's lots of different ways of doing this, and I have a whole program called The Recipe for Social Media Success. And if you're interested in that, I'm going to be doing a training on that on the 20th of this month, 20th of April. Sorry. But you've got to create engaging posts. And what is that? Well, of course, you want to do education. Now, but don't do just one of these. You got to do lots of them. Education is a great one to have on there, but not everyone. Inspirational or motivational, informational. Now, all of those are really good, but you've got to, how will it benefit your customer? What's in it for them? You got to talk about that. And if you don't know what that is in it for them, you're missing out. Then you can ask questions. I love to ask questions. And in fact, here, I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, I had a Friday post, and it was, tell me, which is it for you? Chocolate or Fridays is the best in the week? Now, I had people who were saying each of those. Now, here's what I do. I go in and I'm looking at these posts, and when somebody posts and says, "Oh, I like chocolate," then I go back and say, "Oh, I do too. Are you a milk chocolate, a medium chocolate, a white chocolate?" Actually, I left white chocolate off. So I went, like a milk chocolate, a medium chocolate, or a dark chocolate person. And I had a few people come back, "I'm a white chocolate person." That's what I wanted. I wanted people to come back and say, "Yeah, I love chocolate, but it has to be white chocolate." I got a conversation going. And I had people who were saying, "Well, I don't like chocolate because I'm allergic to it, or it doesn't taste good to me." And it was interesting to talk to these people. And they now are more, I guess the word I'm trying to say is they're more engaged with my posts now because I engaged with them on that one post. And I continue to engage. When I do a program where I write books, and when I have 2 covers I'm trying to decide between, I'll put it out there for social media. And when I send it out, I say, "Do you like this cover or this one? This is A, this is B." And they go, "Okay, I like B." Then I will then send to them and say, "Why did you say B was better than A?" And if they said A, why was A better than B? And it's interesting what I found. And I would choose from those covers, usually because of what they said. In fact, always from what they said. Now, here's another thing, side note, with me writing books and they choosing the cover, when I finally release the book and I let them know on social media, they are more apt to go and buy the book because they helped me choose the cover. Even if they chose the other cover, they will go buy the book because they had a stake in it. They got an opinion in there and they love that. You can do that with anything. Before and after pictures are great for that. You can do all kinds of things. I ask questions. I use surveys. I use contests. I have giveaways. Now, there is a difference between a contest and a giveaway. A giveaway, everyone wins. You do this, you're going to get something. So I'm giving you something. But if it's a contest, it's enter to win, and you can do those. And you just have to be careful on those, depending on your situation. Like I had a person, I was doing a training yesterday on this very thing, more about contests and giveaways. And I had a insurance agent say, "Oh, there's a lot of things I can't do with this." And I said, "You're right. You're limited because you're being scrutinized by SEC or someone else." And I said, "Here's the thing. If you're giving something away to everyone, it doesn't. They can't. It's not a contest." Now, in his case. So now he's an insurance agent. And I said, so if someone says, "I want a free quote and I'm going to get a free gift with that," there's no obligation to buy. There's nothing else. You can do that. You can have people who say, you give me actually, you don't even tell them. They just give you a referral. You send them a free gift. Now, you're not giving them the gift because they gave you the referral, but you're saying thank you for them. And that's what you got to pay attention to, is saying thank you. Now, like in one of the cases of one of my clients, they give away a trip to Las Vegas or Orlando, and I have a whole program about that. But what happens is they can only give that to them once a year. But once they've given them that free trip, they get an average of 5 more referrals, even though they started with just one. But they'll get 5 more referrals on average for every time they've said thank you that way. Now, they don't give a thank you gift every time, just that first time. And it does great things. So use contests, use giveaways as you want. I have a coffee shop who go and invite your friends to go to like our Facebook and our Instagram. You go to our website and our Facebook and Instagram. And every time you do, you get so many points or so many entries in the contest. And then they gave away a free trip to Orlando. And they had lots and lots of new people who went in and liked their site. And they sometimes were the person that they hadn't even liked it before. So it was getting their current customers to like their site as well. Now, testimonials, internet reviews, you should be promoting those. Every time you get an internet review, you should be commenting on them. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But when you when you have a story one, it's really good to put that in your social media. Just simply make a meme for it. Or if you need, you can do a voiceover with that on there, or a picture of them, or there's lots of different ways of doing it. Maybe take a video of them giving that same internet review. That's important. I have several of those myself, and they have always brought me more business because it's other people talking about me, talking about you. And then always give something about you. This is important. You've got to let people know a little bit more about you. Tell them your hobbies. Tell them where you like to vacation. No, you don't have to give them the vacation photos unless you're going jeeping. And if you're going jeeping or you're going to the Grand Canyon or going somewhere, send them put a couple pictures up there. I did some when I went to Bryce Canyon last year. And I had people, "Oh yeah, I love Bryce Canyon." And I got a lot of comments. I got a lot of engagement from it. And guess what? Those people all started following me because of that. And that's the key. You got to be able to understand that, and you got to let people know about you. And now I have people who are always looking at, where are you going this year? We want to, we're thinking of going somewhere. We do staycations because of the COVID. And so I said, well, actually, I'm going back down to Bryce in April. I don't know, really? Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful time of year. It's not too hot because it gets really hot there during the summer. But it's not hot. It's not cold. All the flowers are in bloom. It's a beautiful time of the year. And so I just told them, yeah, I'm going down to Bryce, and this is why. And people go, oh, that's a good idea. Then they started asking me about other things, and pretty soon I'm telling them about Marysvale and the Fremont Indian Reservation, and all the different things, like Highway 12 is the most beautiful byway in America, and that's right there by Bryce Canyon. So by getting a little bit out about what you do gets a conversation going, and pretty soon you've got friends who like, know, and trust you, and they'll refer their friends too. Let's go on. Here's my recipe for social media success program. This is actually my old slide with it. I have, I think there's only 24 things on this. I now have 36 things on my new slide that are all very cool. But the R stands for recreational. And here's what I tell people to do. Rotate between these, so that you have recreational for R, you have educational for E, you have conversational for C, you have inspirational for I, you have promotional, there's where you get to promote yourself, for P, and E is for entrepreneurial. This is about telling about you and your business, okay? And each of these have a place. You want to break it up. Like I said before, most people use just 3 things, and it's usually either ads all the time, or education, or the third one I see all the time is is inspirational. It's quotes, and they just simply put other people's quotes up all the time. Well, that's okay, but you really need to divide it between all of these. In fact, I rotate between them most of the time. I do have some things that, like I have things that, just a minute, sorry, my allergies are already starting for the spring. Isn't that fun? So anyway, you got to get things taken care of, and the thing you want to do is break up your posts. And so having something funny one day, and having a survey done another day, and having a quote from somebody like Benjamin Franklin or Stephen Covey is great for another one, and having an offer from time to time. Yes, you should do that. But you also should tell them about you, about behind the scenes, about how you got started, your mission statement. Go to Throwback Thursdays after that, and then you can do a trivia about your business. Do a facts that that are cool things. There are lots of things here that you can do, and that's what I recommend, is to utilize any of this. In fact, coming up at the end of the month, I'm going to be doing a social media challenge. And what it is 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, you post something out of these 6 categories. And I'm going to go through them, rotate through them one at a time, and you get to do that. You get to follow along, and it'll be, so today I want you to do this. Today I want you to do that. And it's a little video, less than 30 seconds long, that teaches you what you need to do. And then it comes as an email with the video, and then you just simply do that. And you post it. We did this twice last year, and I've had customers come back to me. I have one customer who came to me and he says, Boyd, I am now so busy because I did this that I cannot go to networking meetings any longer. I'm that booked up. And I said, keep going with the social media. You're going to keep booked up if you do. And he does. There's several people that have had that. Now, I know a lot of people get to about day 20 and they drop off because, oh, that's a lot of doing a video, but I teach you how to do the videos too. And I do teach you all kinds of things. So it's kind of a cool program. But anyway, recipe for social media success is something you really need to be looking at. And even if you don't you follow this, do something where you're doing something different every day. Okay. Now, reputation. Did you know that your reputation is part of your social media? Yes, it is. Now, the two places Google looks for your reviews, and they're the only two that they will authorize is Google My Business and Facebook reviews. The reason why is they want to make sure that whoever is leaving the review has to have signed in and left a legitimate name in association with it. Now, you can go in and say name withheld, but they have to be able to verify it at some point. If I get someone who says, oh, they did a terrible job and blah, 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 and you find out it was a past employee who's just disparaging you, then you can go in and have Google investigate that. Now pull it off like that, because they will not stand up, allow that to happen. That's why they will only allow it for people who do that. And that's what your SEO score is based somewhat on your reputation. And so you need to make sure it's done very well. And the two places to do that is Google My Business and Facebook. Now, Facebook has two sides to it. They have Facebook reviews and Facebook recommendations. Recommendations, anybody can leave about you, but they don't have to sign in. You can even put them in there. But reviews have to be signed in, and they have to be, it has to be from someone outside of you. And that works really well. Now, let me tell you a little bit about some of these. I'm going to show you some, because not everything is all about the reviews. Now, here's some. These are some reviews that I have from Jim Carroll, who's going to be speaking next. And so this was before we got together and started doing business together. Sam Diamond, great friend, but again, somebody that I work with social media marketing, and it started off as that. Okay, but there are other places where you need to be paying attention. So when you're on a group and somebody says, I'm looking for a social media person, here's some of the answers that I get, or here's what they are getting. Boyd Peterson is your guy. Boyd Peterson, I'll add onto the Boyd Peterson vote. These are what people are saying when others are looking for it, that they don't know what they're looking for or who they're looking for on social media. You need to know this. If you're getting people who are giving your name out, thank them also. And you see that little reply there? You should like and reply everyone that has your name in it. And on the reply, say, thank you, Jordan. And then go on and explain what you can do to help that person. That means you got to go up to the top and see what they were really looking for. The other day, I had somebody who put me in for SEO, and I said, thank you. And I thanked the person who said it. And I said, I'm not the right guy for SEO, but here's the right guy you really should use. Do you know what? They called that guy instead of all the 22 that were on there already, because I told them I don't do it, but here's a guy who really does do it well. And also, when you do these, when you do it, put it so that you tell the story of why you think this person is the best to be the person to talk to. It gives them a little better oomph when you're doing it. And when you're seeing this, like Michael Glassford, he's the one who I actually taught that to. Now he teaches it to everybody in our group. He says, oh, Boyd taught me this. And that's cool. Okay. The third area is, what are people saying about you otherwise? Now, in this particular case, I was going to be presenting at a group that was meeting together back in 2019. And this is what people were saying about me. They were glad that I was going to be there, and it's great. I'm excited. We love the Boyd Show. Those are great things to know about. But you need to also be looking and searching to make sure that your name isn't being on some social group being said, this person, he doesn't do a really good job, or whatever it might be. You've got to pay attention to all of that. And if you're not, And there's tools that will help you do that. Let me know if you want to know about the tools. I can tell you about them, or you can look for them up. But you want to know what other people are saying about you, because Google pays attention to everything that's done. Now, one of the things that I know everyone has heard, and everyone agrees, word of mouth marketing is absolutely the best type of promotion for your company. However, if you take that marketing and they put it to you as a testimonial, or they put it as an internet review, you can then use that word of mouth marketing and put it on steroids. I'm going to show you how in just a moment. I'm going to tell you how to do it. Okay, so now here's one of the most interesting statistic I've found, and I'm going, why? 88% of consumers trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. Now, if you're talking to someone one-on-one and you only have one review on your site, they will take both of them at face value. They're equal. If you have 3 or more on your site or on Google My Business or Facebook, they will trust those over what you say. Did you know that? They don't trust you as much as they will trust 3 people, because 3 people are saying, he's the bomb. You need to recognize that. And so just pay attention to that. But here's another thing. I get the most out of my customers from word of mouth. But let me tell you how it works. When it is a referral, it's private. It's usually one-on-one, and you get an average of 2 a year. But if you get them to give you a review, it becomes public. It goes ongoing. In fact, I have some people who have mentioned some of my reviews that are 4 and 5 years ago because of what people said about me, and they're in that same industry that they are in. Okay, so ongoing, and then it's an unlimited reach. So, and here's one of the other things. If you have an online review, or somebody sends you a testimonial, or even tells you a testimonial, I used to tell people, I love when people say, boy, you do a great job. I'll say, why did you say that? And then they'll tell me the story of why. And then the very next thing I say is, can I quote you on that? And then what I do is I'll send them that quote to them to verify that's exactly what they said. And then I will put it on social media, and I will put it on the Facebook recommendations, because they didn't put it as a review. I'll ask them to do a review of me on Google My Business and on reviews, Facebook reviews. But if they don't, then I put it on Facebook recommendations. But I post it on social media, and I post it like once a quarter. I'll post something like that for a year, and they bring me more business. So that's important to know. That's how you get it on steroids, because now you're sending it out to hundreds of thousands of people that are looking for reviews, and that are people who are seeing your social media. Now, how important are reviews? Let's talk about this. There are 3 companies here. The first one has a 5-star review. They all sell the same truck. One has a 5-star review, one has a 1-star review. Did you know that the guy with the 5-star review will get 3.5 times more business than with someone with a 1-star review? People like to do business with people that are well liked. That's the bottom line. And yeah, okay. And then the next thing to know is if they have no reviews, which means there's 0 stars, the person with a 1-star review is more apt to get business than the one with no reviews. That's, this one's usually saying they're not very good, but if they have a 1-star review, they're going to be better than those that don't have any reviews. And that's how it works. You've got to get some reviews. Now, here's some more interesting things. Now, 92% of the people surveyed were going to use you if you have 4 stars or above. Now, and it goes down from there. You can see how it goes. But here's the thing I want to tell you about is you need to make sure that you're using authentic, trustworthy, recent, and relevant reviews. You need to make sure you're getting them in. Now, let me tell you the sad side of this. It's never, ever make up or pay someone to write reviews for you. There's sorry, there's a company that's a auto repair shop here in the Salt Lake City area. And I was working with them, and a guy walks in one day and he says, I can get you 200 reviews. And they're going, oh, that's cool. Boyd's been talking about we need reviews, and we're having such a hard time getting them. It's just become really difficult. And so what they said was, well, how much do you want for this? And he says, for $495, I'll get you 200 reviews in the next 2 months. And he says, perfect. They forked out the $495. They started getting these reviews. And a few weeks later, Google shuts down their Google My Business account. And they get this little note that says something to the effect of, it appears that you are using a service to get reviews, not real customers, because we don't believe someone from India, from Taiwan, or even Canada are going to drive to Utah to give you business. This is the problem that is a lot of times with these paid reviews. Don't do them. They will cost you your business. They were shut down for 2 years. In fact, they're about to get past that 2-year mark now. And so they've already got people lined up that are legitimate, trustworthy reviewers that are going to give them reviews. Okay, got to pay attention to that. Okay, how important are reviews? The bottom line is everybody's online. They always love to see what other people's opinion is, and their opinions matter. Okay, so don't let customers who are mad at you be the only ones who are going to review you, which is what happens if you don't ask customers to tell about you. This right here is really important. Satisfied customers tell 3 friends, angry customers tell 3,000. And this is true. And they're the ones who are putting the bad reviews on for you is when you've done something wrong. The big thing is take care of the customers. Good customer service is what it's all about. And if you're not able to do that, then follow up with them and find out what you fell down on with that customer. Because how you respond to that customer that gave you a bad review is more important than how many good reviews you have. And I have stories that go along with that, but we're running out of time, so I'm going to continue on. Now, the next thing on this is SEO. Internet reviews and social media are part of that. And so he's going to cover that and tell you more. But there's 2/3 of the SEO puzzle is what Jim's going to be talking about. And so he'll show you the pie chart that shows that and get you going with that. So I'm not going to cover that. But one of the other things I'm going to do is I want you to understand a couple things. There's steps to a strong reputation. First, you have to start and build a reputation. If you don't have one, you've got to do it. Then you got to maintain that reputation. And finally, you need to defend your reputation. Yes, oops, this is going on. I don't want to go on yet. I want to make sure to defend if I get something going on that's not there. Now, there are 5 reasons why you should, if there's 5 different types of terrible reputation things that can happen to you, that you can then get those reviews taken down. And so if you want to know more about those, let me know and I'll get you information on that. Okay, but here are the 6 components of creating a strong reputation. First, you have the create a strong benefit-driven website and engaging social media sites. You got to have both of them together at the same time so that they'll work together. If you work on the website, not the social media, or you work on the social media and not the website, it doesn't happen as well as you want it to. It will never, ever get going strong. The next thing you need is set up your Google My Business account. Make sure that all of the citations, and I'll show you what they are in a minute, that they all have the same information. Don't use different phone numbers for every single online thing you do. It will cost you in the SEO world. Okay? Ask your customers about their experience. I always like to ask my customers how it's going for them and encourage their ideas so that I can improve what we're doing. If they had if it's a great interaction, then I start asking them for reviews. And then I monitor and respond to every review that people give me. That's important to do. In fact, for every time you get, well, if you get a 5-star review and they don't say anything, just say thank you. But if they give you a 3-line review, respond with 2 lines yourself. If they give you a 10-line review, respond with 6 or 7 lines. You want to do about 65% more or as much of what they said back. Let them know that you remember them, you care about them, and you appreciate their business. And that's what a good response to a review will do. Okay, then I mentioned this before, you've got to monitor your social media. You got to check it. You got to check all what's being said on all types of accounts. And then your social media and website promotion, you need to do that. You use images and video reviews. These are the reviews that you've gotten from your customers back here on number 4. You know, when they give you an internet review, then promote it on social media and on your website as well. Now, I mentioned the citations. What a citation is all the different places where you put all your information so people can contact you. So there's 75 sites, actually more than that, that Google pays attention to. Now, not every one of them apply. Like, I'll never be in the bank one because I'm not a financial institution. But if you're a credit union or a bank, you should be in that one. You should be in the Chamber of Commerce one. You should be on Google and Bing and Facebook, and it goes right on through all of these. And all of these generally love to just simply set you up. And of course, they may start to say, hey, you ought to do more with us. Like you'll get bugged to death from Yelp, but you need to have your information on there to have the best SEO that you possibly can. Now, if you don't have the time to go into every one of these and get them set up, there are tools that will help you do that. So if you need information about those tools, let me know. But the big thing is, would you like an evaluation of how you stand with these directories right now? Then I would like you to send me your information. And what I need to know is I need to know the right information. So your company name, address, phone number, contact information are the 4 that I need. And of course, with that, your contact information has to have your email. And then I will send you a report saying how well these are doing. And most people, if they have 5 that are correct, I'm surprised because most of them don't. Okay, I have some free stuff here for you, and I'm running out of time, so I better hurry through this. Okay, so on your Facebook page, a lot of people put an image up there, and this is one of the images that one of my clients had. They were a consulting firm for accounting and bookkeeping, and this was their cover picture. Okay, that's okay. But we changed it to this, and they started getting a lot more business. Now here, I'm going to tell you a secret. If you change your cover every month Facebook will send out to all the people following you on your business account and say, hey, Boyd's changed his cover. And they'll do that once a month. If you do, it'll draw more people to you than you can imagine. Now, also, another key thing or a tip is when you post this, go in and put some information behind it. In fact, most companies put an Easter egg. That's something that's an added value or a special hidden file that you can go to so you can get some new information about them. It's kind of fun when you're looking through those and you see an Easter egg. People get excited and then they tell their friends. And when they tell their friends, you're getting more business. Now, here's another one that we did. This is for a photography studio. Great picture. Awesome picture. But we just changed that picture so that it got them 3 times the business because of how we worded it. And we changed their picture every month. So in 1 month, they got 3 times as much as they got from that picture being used. And I think they had it up there for 3 months before that. So find out about other seminars and webinars that we are having. You can go to bpmedia.com/seminars. You can see what we've got coming up. And I'd love to have you come. These are all free events generally. If there's going to be a charge, I'll let you know on that side. Then also, this is my information. You can contact me there. If you want the free report on the citations or ask questions about any of the things I've talked about, please leave me a message. Or send me a message. And I love getting emails. I love, if you want to call me, you can. This QR code is great because it will then get you all of my information. Plus, it'll show you a short video about what I do. So
just wanted to let you know I was logging in right on time at 1:31. So.
Right on time. Yeah, okay. All right. So, any questions anyone has? Not that I see, huh? Okay.
See any popping up?
Okay. Mark, are you there?
He's there. He just needs to unblock his video.
There he is.
There you go.
Hi.
How are you, gentlemen? It's good to see you.
Good. How you doing?
Wonderful.
Good. So with you guys having trouble getting in, I went ahead and started before you guys, but I hope you don't mind.
No,
I didn't want to.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to make sure that everybody got what they were looking for. So,
I was impressed with Mark's background because it looks like he's like the coming down the presidential palace, with all that big background and the flag. And I'm thinking I need to add a flag to my office.
Well, I'm a patriotic guy. What can I say?
There you go.
I love the country.
Well, that's good.
We all do.
All right. Well, I don't see any questions at this point. So should we just move on to James taking over from here?
Sure.
Or do you want to kind of give them an overview of what you would have done at the beginning, Mark?
No, we're good. We're
Okay.
good. We'll just be when Jim has completed his magnificent section on all the digital wizardry that he brings.
It's magic.
We'll have an opportunity. It is magic, especially from my perspective.
I think there's a song about magic. Yeah.
We'll be talking how to take leads that you gentlemen create and how to more effectively convert that prospect into a solid client, solid paying customer. And then that's in the final section.
Good.
Look forward to it.
That's the whole thing. So, Jim, I'm going to let you take over from here. Okay. And we'll be back to talk at the end. And if you do have questions during this, go ahead and put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and I'll be there to watch for those.
Awesome. Thanks, Boyd. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share. And there you go. And it should be full screen in just a second. Okay, that should be full screen for everyone, I believe. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jim Carroll. I am CEO of a company called E2 Total Solutions. We describe ourselves as a full service search engine optimization and marketing firm. And I work with Boyd on some projects. I'm working with Mark on a couple of projects, and it's exciting. It's fun. I mean, it's what I love to do. It keeps me awake at night, and then when I wake up early in the morning, it's what wakes me up, and I wonder, what has Google done to change things for me over the course of the night. But today we're talking specifically about sales, and what we want to attract is we want people to engage us, and Boyd started wonderfully with how to engage as far as social media and those types of things. I'm going to expand a little tiny bit into the social, or not, past the social media, but into the internet realm. But before we go to my other slide, I want you guys to know what you don't know about me. I want you to get to make a connection with me. I want you to engage with me. And so I'm going to tell you a couple of things quickly about me. First of all, that first slide is a turkey frying pot. Usually on Thanksgiving, I fry 6 or 8 turkeys that day. And they're wonderful. We pack them the night before with Cajun spices and inject them with wine or cranberry juice or something else. But that is a fabulous way to cook your turkey. I'm just going to say that. The next thing is I built a cabin. I live in a cabin, and that's a picture of my fireplace, my cabin, and my moose. In the lower left, I have a little over 4,000 skydives. So if you think you can scare me, I've jumped out of planes 4,000 times. I've jumped out of planes with both myself on fire and the plane on fire. So there's some great stories you should ask me about later. Those are my 2 pups. And I have Norwegian Elkhounds. It's a very unique breed. And then, of course, I do crazy things. If I jump out of planes, I guess I'd do crazy things like scuba dive with sharks and stuff like that. So I'm kind of an adventurous. Boyd describes me that way all the time. And I love life, and I love living it to its fullest. So that's me to an extension. I think early on, Boyd might have mentioned the shutdown. We're getting to the end of the shutdown, but it dramatically changed the way that we do business, the way that we all do business. A year ago, we were shut down because of COVID-19. There was stuff going on in our particular territory in the Greater Salt Lake. There was an earthquake, which is not necessarily foreign to us, but it caused buildings to fall down and have problems. We were forced to socially distant, and we were temporarily closed for a lot of things. If you look in that upper left-hand slide, you could see businesses were kind of starting to crashing, and now we're coming out of that funk. We're coming out of that. People, I want to tell you that got out of their basement and got out and worked on their business. Not necessarily got out, but worked on their business the whole time instead of hiding in the basement. Those are the people that are going to excel and succeed and be winners now that we're opening the country back up. All the people, all the hard work that they did while everyone else was hunkering down are the ones that are going to float to the top. That happened as a truism on September 11th. It happened after the recession, when 2008, 2009, the stocks crashed. There's been a couple of war threats and stuff, and people that jump forward instead of jump backwards, I'm going to tell you, are going to be the ones that succeed. When I was I was stuck in Chicago for 7 days after 9/11, after those towers came down, and I've done nothing but jump forward since then. So those are the people that are going to be successful. You should, now that we're coming out of this pandemic, jump forward, be successful. You should have been doing it all along, quite frankly, but not everybody did. I want to thank my other 3 amigos for being part of this presentation today. You can pick and choose which one's which one, but what we're going to talk about are multiple things. We're going to talk about action. How do you take that action? We're going to talk about knowledge. what knowledge do you need to know? And Boyd's already shared a great deal of that with us from a social media perspective. Have you got a blueprint? And then how do you nurture your clients? How do you nurture all of those things moving forward? So that's why we're all here today. Don't let there be any mistakes that we're trying to help you navigate your business, navigate the business world, navigate the new world now that it's all started to happen. As mentioned before, Boyd will kind of be monitoring the process. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Boyd will interrupt me. He knows if it's an appropriate time or not, and he might wait for a minute to ask me that question, but he'll interrupt my presentation and ask me questions. So there's no such thing as a silly question. Don't worry about that. Go ahead and write the questions. And we want to talk about performance index. This is a great example of where we're going. This is a client that I started with last April, and he basically had no index. You can see today he just broke 100. That's an accurate slide. That's not even a week old. And he broke 100 in his marketing index. So that's what we're trying to do. It's a process. You can see that we navigate along the way. There's things that he did like in this area right here that kind of hurt us, but we were able to come back and continue on and move better. So we're talking specifically about web stuff, web search engine optimization. I describe my company as a full service search engine optimization and marketing firm. Well, what does that mean? And I just wanted, I'm not going to read it to you, but search engine optimization, web design, copywriting, reputation management. That's something Boyd spoke about. I'll touch on that too. Do you want to be, do you need a pay-per-click campaign? All of those things are things that we care about, or things that keep me up at night. What we want to do in general is improve your Google position. If I can help you improve your Google position, then you're going to do nothing but get more clients. If you're on the 10th position on the 10th page, I guarantee nobody is going to go there to find you. But if you're on the first position on the first page, you're going to get all kinds of crazy business. If you're, the first 3 positions on the first page, you're going to get all kinds of business. If you're on the first page, you're going to get more business than if you're on the bottom of the second page. No, rarely do people go to the second page. They never go to the 3rd or 4th or 5th page. So you need to really consider your Google position. And that's what I want to talk about today. So online marketing, that's kind of a vague term, and people throw it around all the time. But what does it really mean? And the whole point of online marketing is to produce sales and make money. I'm just going to leave it right there at that. I mean, we can talk about a wider range of topics and stuff, but that's all that online marketing is meant to do. It's just like old-fashioned marketing, where maybe you use newspapers or radio or stuff like that. Well, online marketing is more important maybe even than radio today, with the input that you have. You're not just driving through your car. You're able to look on your phone. You're able to access a client or a potential purchase all online with your phone. So it's become really, really crazy in the way that it is. I mean, crazy in the sense that it's unconventional. People don't understand, why all these ads pop up after they've looked for a canoe. All of a sudden you get like 1 million ads for canoes, and it's because there's algorithms that work and things at play. Everybody agrees to take the clicks, and now you're getting 1,000 clicks for a canoe. It's insane, but that's how the algorithm work. That's how the money or the marketing companies follow you, and they follow you to ultimately sell you a canoe. I mean, it gets kind of crazy. So I like to throw this slide in a lot of my presentations, and it's very, very specific in my mind to marketing. And this is the Winchester Mansion. It was built in the late 1800s, excuse me. It has 24,000 square feet, 10,000 windows, 2,000 doors, 160 rooms. There's rooms that don't have doors. There's stairs that go to nowhere. There's windows that open from nothing, not from a room. It was built specifically because the heir to the Winchester mansion, or the money, was she thought that if there was always construction going on, that it would stop ghosts from all the Winchester guns from invading her house. So she just had construction going on 24/7, basically, for years and years and years, until she passed away. But when I look at it, I think so many people don't have a plan, basically, for their internet marketing. Boyd talks specifically about social media. I'm going to talk specifically about optimization. There's another component that's going to be link building. I mean, you need all of these components working together to make you whole. And the Winchester mansion was technically never finished. And they built and built and built and made noise and made noise and made noise. But are you making enough noise to be found on the internet? That's the question. That's what Boyd was alluding to. And that's what we're going to talk about more from an SEO perspective. So digital marketing includes a lot of things. Certainly the website is the principal part of it, but then are you sending out SMS messages? Are you using banner advertising, email marketing, content marketing, social media? This is what encompasses digital marketing. And if you're not doing all of them, then you're probably failing. It looks like a big pile of things to get done. There's ways to automate it. Boyd will certainly take care of you and automate it. There's automation that I do, and invisible things, quite frankly, in the background that I do to make your website rank. And you should be deploying all of these things to actually make yourself work. Excuse me, make your site work. So what we're talking about is a big funnel, if you'll think of it that way. And it kind of starts with awareness. And are people aware of you? If you're selling whatever, motorcycle parts or car parts or whatever, are they aware of you? Are they aware of your website? And then if you've done something, either a Facebook post or just your ranking, basically done something to draw them in and create some interest. Are they interested in you? If you're selling RV parts, there's a lot of competition out there. So did they find your website online? Did they find it in the top couple of positions? Is there some interest there? Then they go to your website and maybe they'll make a decision to buy an awning for your RV or whatever. And once that decision is made, then did they take that action? So it's this huge funnel where we draw people in. The difference between conventional marketing and today's marketing is that instead of exposing your newspaper ad to, say, a circulation of 200-300, and you could guess that maybe most of them didn't see the ad, maybe 1 or 2% respond, that's a rock star, right? Well, today you're not limited to 2 or 3, 100,000. You could expose it to 1 million. Utah has, I think, almost 3 million people that live in it. And so why couldn't you expose it to all 300 million? Oops, excuse me. I'm sorry, that was my mom. So at any rate, you can expose yourself to so many more people. That's the advantage of the internet. You're not limited to the circulation of a newspaper in Ogden or Salt Lake City or Provo. You can expose it to everybody in the state. And so what we're trying to do is build a quality relationship. It's partially customer service, partially marketing, partially quality of the product and stuff. And then inside of there, you build a relationship. That's what we want to do with internet marketing. So what we're trying to do is go from the I want to know moment to the I want to go moment, to this is what I want to do moment, to the decision to buy. So when they actually buy, so it's a process. It's very much like that funnel. We need to drive them down through that all the time. So if we're talking about internet marketing, and we're starting to get really into a little bit deeper into my expertise, I want to point out that Google controls 93% of the market when it comes to search. So that means all of the other search engines. I mean, Bing, MSN, Yahoo. There's a gaggle I could name. There's one I like called Dogpile. Dogpile is a literal search engine, literal, that they will find something that actually matches the keywords you put in your search. But 93% of the world uses Google as their search engine, and 93% of the searches are found through them. So do I really care about, this affinity that I have for Dogpile? Not really. Do I care about Bing? Not really. If I make it be found on Google, all the other search engines fall right in line. I don't have to worry about optimizing something for Bing. Bing will fall in line if I make it be found on Google. The only search engine I ever care about is Google. So 93% of them search there. If you start to look at this a little tiny bit, you see that Google's the #1 search engine. Google searches images are #2. YouTube is #3. Well, guess who owns YouTube? Google. So Google owns the top 3 search engines. Those are all search engines. And then we go into Bing and Yahoo and Amazon after that. But the top 3 search engines are all owned technically by Google. The Google reviews, we're going to talk a little tiny bit more about those. Boyd touched on it, and they are very important. Reviews are important, and we'll get to those. Before we go too far down the road, I want you to understand a little bit more about Google. Google was founded by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Their cap value is about $300 billion, excuse me. And the primary way that it was founded was when they were programming their search engine. They looked at all the other search engine algorithms, and those algorithms were based on popularity. So if you were on MSN and you were popular, then what happened was MSN made you more popular because you were the search in the first position. So then more people clicked on the first position. That made you more popular. It just ran out of control. Well, Larry and Sergey looked at it and thought, well, that's not a great measurement of worth or a great measurement of value. They determined that link building or an inbound link was a better methodology to measure value. So they built their algorithm around link building. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute, but an inbound link is when somebody, let's say a sheep farmer that's in Australia, likes the way you weave and dye your wool because you have a sweater shop in Salt Lake. That inbound link is more valuable. It's like a vote of confidence for that particular sweater shop. So we'll talk about how that works in a minute, but that's what Google was based on. There's a big sign in the home office of Google that says, "Our mission is to organize the world's information and make it more universally accessible and useful." Well, that's an interesting statement on a lot of levels, but it doesn't say we're going to organize all the English-speaking information. It says they're going to organize all the information available in the world. That includes every website, that includes every book, that includes every newspaper. And I'm not talking about new publications, like new newspaper publications being published every day, but there's almost 1 second every day, 24 hours a day, a new website launched. So Google has a big job. They have to find that site and then understand what that site's about. They send out their spiders and crawl that site and understand what the site's about, and then go back and index it. And they have to put it in an index so that when somebody searches for whatever, hot dogs, then, where is that going to rank? How valuable is that term for hot dog? And you might ask yourself, great, what about hot dogs? But does that mean that they're interested in a good skier? A good skier is called a hot dog. Or does that mean they're interested in a barbecue? So Google has started to understand all of the words around the keyword. So if the keyword's hot dog and you surround that with, pine cones and pine trees and snow, that means a good skier. If that means ketchup and mustard, that means it's going to be a barbecue. So Google's getting really, really smart is the point of that conversation. And there's a quick example. They crush everybody in billions of searches. You can see, Yahoo and all these others, relishing here at the bottom. That's a graphic comparison of how many searches Google actually does every day. So Facebook's the other thing that I care about. There's two things that I care about. Google's one and Facebook's the other. Mark Zuckerberg is the one that founded it, and he's got a market cap of about $3.5 billion as well. He's got a sign in his home office that says, give power to the people to build community and bring the world closer together. So he's kind of approached it from a little bit of a different perspective. Giving power to the people is an intriguing proposition if that's what really happens. However, he and some of his other colleagues, I'm going to say Google, I'm going to say Twitter, manipulated the public opinion and may or may not have elected a president. I mean, I'm not going to get political. I don't care. Well, I do care, but the point is I'm not going to be political. But they restrict information from free speech, and that it's not giving power to the people. It's actually making people think a certain way, or only allowing them to see a certain perspective. So it's kind of interesting that they have this thing to, in their home office to bring the world closer together, when in fact they may be more divisive than not. They're the same. Here's a graphic that does the same thing. You can see that they actually are crushing everybody else as far as searches. And I want to point out, I think Boyd may have mentioned this, that Facebook is in fact a search engine. People are using it more and more. You don't go to Google and search, you go to Facebook and search. And that's actually become a problem for Facebook. They're very deeply concerned that Facebook now is the medium where people go to, and you can ask the same question, how do you make pizza pie? And they'll give you an answer, or they'll give you a site, or they'll give you something. The same thing is true with Google. You go to where, how do you make a pizza pie? They'll give you results, but they've been indexing everybody for a long time. Facebook results, or Facebook, is really quite interesting when you really look at the algorithm, how it refocuses your attention, or refocuses what you're actually searching for. And then, of course, there's another couple of things I want to point out. That there's YouTube, which is increasing radically in following. If you guys are looking for future clients, YouTube, 100% of kids between 12 and 18 go to YouTube once a week and search for something. Not 90%, not 80%, 100% of 12 to 18-year-olds actually use Facebook as a search engine. So it's or YouTube, excuse me, as a search engine. So it's really intriguing in how you actually have to look at things. I want to point out specifically that both Google and Facebook are machines. There's nothing more than a machine algorithm running in the background saying, what is it that you really want? What is it you're really looking for? Google, especially, as you even start to type in your search, it is thinking ahead of you and saying, well, if he's talking about skis and he's talking about pine trees, we need to deliver this. And that's when you look at the delivery results, it says in like 0.3 seconds, we delivered 1 million results or whatever. Well, that's because they have this great big stack of sites. So as you start to type that in, that machine is thinking ahead of you and saying, what does he really want? What is he looking for? What does he care about? It's nothing but an algorithm. I like to have this little math problem in the background, but they are in fact machines. It's all machine learning to them. They're all up in their skin about artificial intelligence and quantum computing. I like to stop here and point something out, that quantum computing is really the wave of the future. And there's a bunch of information out there that China in particular is ahead of us as far as quantum computing, and that's really artificial intelligence and quantum computing is the wave of the future. On November 6th, a year ago, they put a math problem into a quantum computer. And they figured that a normal computer would take about 10,000 years to come up with the resolution to this one math problem. The quantum computer did it in about 200 seconds, resolved it in 200 seconds. So there's lightning difference. It's kind of like thinking a normal computer is very linear in its thought process, but it's quantum computers 4-dimensional. So that's why they're so much faster, and that's really going to be the wave of the future. That's really what's happening as far as that goes. So moving on. Google is the #1 website in the world. YouTube, which is owned by Google, is the #2 website in the world. Facebook is the #3 website in the world. That's totally crazy. And there's some information here that how often people search online, what percentage of people actually buy online. There's some great information there, but we need to keep moving. So, keep moving forward. Google controls 93% of the searches worldwide, and that makes them an unbelievable powerhouse. 68%, and I don't know if this number may have changed since I actually built this slide, but I think Boyd says that it's somewhere closer to maybe to 80% of all so it's 68% of all Americans have a Facebook account, but I think it's closer to 80% of all the people in the world have a Facebook account. And then they use it on a regular basis. If you have it and don't use it, that's one thing, but if about 75% of those people are using it on a regular basis, then that makes Facebook a powerhouse as well. So now I've finally caught up to Boyd. And so I gave you a lot of background really on how Facebook and Google interface with everything. But this slide, I know Boyd uses it. I think we both use it a great deal. But every one of the social media platforms is designed to do one thing, and that's to drive you to a website. So Boyd, last time I said this, he didn't quite cringe, but I know he cringes inside, is that every social media platform is designed to drive you to the website, which means effectively there's almost no conversions made on the website or the social media, excuse me. So you have to drive everyone to the website. That's where the conversion is made. Go ahead, Boyd.
I was just going to say, I actually told them that exact thing earlier.
Okay.
It's all about traffic, and you got to send the traffic somewhere, and it should be to the website.
That's
cringe.
Very
often.
You shudder a little bit, but that's okay.
No, that's what it's for.
And that's the point. I mean, it's all creating that big funnel. If you can create the awareness that we talked about, maybe the interest, and drive them to a point where they can make the decision and purchase it, that's exactly what you want to do. So, it's okay to do a little bit of maybe paid advertising. I cringe when somebody says Google advertising because they're expensive and a lot of other problems with that. But get them to a point where you can make the conversion. They make the conversion at the website. If you're selling, my goodness, a mattress, and they see a little bit about information about it on YouTube or on Facebook, and then they decide, hey, I'm going to click on that. That link takes them to the website. They can see the website where there's blogs, there's reviews, there's all this other information. They decide, hell yeah, I'm going to buy that mattress. That's where the decision is made. Does your website work? Can you process information? Can you process a credit card? That's where they're going to make that decision. Do you have free shipping? What are the other things? There's a lot of other things that are at play, but that graphic right there, I can't drive it into your brains enough. That's how the internet works. That's how the marketing world works today. So burn that into your mind right now. And there's all kinds of other information. There's buyers and customer reviews, all kinds of stuff that go on there. So I'm going to tell you guys simplistically how SEO works, and it's super simple. Everybody can do it, but it's broken into 3 pieces of the pie. So if you look at the on-page stuff right here, that's everything in this category. You have on-site content, you have meta descriptions, you have on-page content. So there's a difference between the on-page content and the meta. The meta is all the data that happens in the back side of the site. The on-page is what people actually read. There should be a correlation between those two. The metadata has to reflect what the page actually says. And then there's other things like alt descriptions, which are basically title descriptions for your photos and stuff like that. Then there's blog content. Google has a requirement that you have fresh content. The easiest way that you do that is by adding fresh content through a blog on a regular basis. I put this little opening here between evergreen content into the blog type or the page content. Evergreen content is content that doesn't change, things that are universally acceptable and do not change. For example, if you're talking about ski racers and you talk about Peekaboo Street, she was a flash in the pan. She was around for a couple of years, kind of flashy, cool, whatever. But the evergreen part of that content would be trees and slalom courses and snow, maybe snow conditions. Those things are universal, where Peekaboo herself was a flash in the pan. So you need a mix of flash in the pan and evergreen content. When you go down here, you can see that I didn't say social media at first. I said reviews and then social media. Reviews and how people are talking about you and what you really are is more important than maybe the social media platform that they're saying it on, but reviews are important. And then down here, I put a couple of valuable platforms across the board, but and Boyd and I have a lot of conversations when we're working on a client together. Do they belong on Instagram? Do they belong on YouTube? Do they belong on Pinterest? Each one of those platforms has a different demographic. And so if and this is oversimplified, please don't send me hate mail. But if you're wanting to, know how to make your own candles, you should maybe go to Pinterest. If you're wanting to know how to improve your business, you should be on Instagram or maybe LinkedIn. Everybody should be on Facebook just because it's Facebook. But think about the demographic all of a sudden on what your business sells and where you should put it. So that's an interesting question. The third part of this, and this truly, I was joking a little bit before when I said this was easy, but this is impossible. Most people have no idea of the importance or how to do it. And that's sad. Google was founded on a link building strategy, a link building philosophy. If you're that farmer in Australia growing his sheep and you're sending a link to the sweater company in Salt Lake City, there has to be a reason why. And the reason is it is a vote of popularity. And so if you've got a bunch of sites outside of yours driving links from like a deep page to another deep page inside that site, you can follow that arrow to a deep page. And then how is your site represented? Is there content? What kind of content? What kind of DR ranking does your site have? Blah, 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 blah. but you can see that you don't just drive from a home page to a home page, you drive from a deep page to a deep page. And then how do you acquire those? If you're a mechanic, I've got a mechanic client, and he's getting his clients. First of all, his clients are all sending him reviews, which is cool. He's requesting those reviews and they're responding. But the link building, if he's a mechanic shop and he can get a part supplier, Napa, to send him an inbound link, that's cool. If he can get Western Tire Company to send him an inbound link, that's cool. So they're all important and it makes sense. Google, by the way, goes back 3 generations of links. So if you're a mechanic shop and you have a Napa approve you, and then Napa, or send you an inbound link, I should say, and then Napa has a laundromat and then a cigar shop driving them links, Google actually looks 3 links deep, and they're saying, well, why does this mechanic have a cigar shop 3 generations away sending him a link? They should all have continuity. So Napa should have a link from a manufacturer of alternators, and then the manufacturer of alternators should have a company that provides them steel. That makes perfect sense to have that line driven straight through, but to have it be a tire shop with Napa and then laundry and then cigars, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So you have to be really careful when you're starting to do link building today. It's very, very specific. Here's another example of it, and methodologies that you can get press releases or links. But I want to point out that you go from a deep page to another deep page inside the site. That's the appropriate way to do it. And then, niche posting and tiered linking, all these other things are important, but that's far too much for us to get into today, I think. So I want to talk a little tiny bit about websites versus landing pages. And on the left, you have a typical website. This website has a typical navigation. You can go to different parts of the site. This also will link generally to another part of the site. These might link to individual blogs about topics that you're interested in. This might link to other pages on the site. And then of course you've got all the way to find everything down here. This is generally considered some sort of site map. And that's a very typical website. That's very normal in the way that we build web pages. This particular site over here is a landing page. And this landing page, if this, I'm going to stick with my auto shop scenario. So if this is an auto shop, you can go to tires and alternators and tune-ups and whatever as you go across the board. This landing page only has one place that you can send them, one link. It might have a little bit of information, might have a cool graphic, but that link right there is only going to go to one place. So if tune-ups is one of the categories over here, this might be auto shops, tune-ups specialists, .com. So you can have a separate URL and then drive that link from this particular page to tune-ups, into your very specific tune-ups page. So, we've got a page, auto shops here. Oops, I want to talk with my hands. Auto shops over here. And then this is a completely different URL, tune-ups, specialists, whatever. But that will drive an inbound link to the same place that goes, and only so the consumer will be rewarded by going to that page or finding that page and then clicking on the auto tune-up specialist. When they click on that link, it's going to take them to the auto shop page, the auto shop specialist, but it's going to go deep into that site and reward them for their search. They were searching for tune-ups. That's what this page right here provided them. It went past all this other crap on the other site and took them straight to the auto tune-up page. So a typical website, a typical high-performing website, sometimes has as many as 15 or 20 landing pages and drives people to very specific parts of their site. So that's how that works. I want to point out here that automation is my friend. We generally automate as much as we can. And you can see that there's different click paths that are different click channels that go through here. You know, you need to add somebody to an email list. You need to build value for them. You need to collect their money and then have the potential to upsell them. So if you're at the auto shop page and you want to, after they've landed there, you want to add them to an email list. So you have to give them something like a reminder. Say, I'm going to give you a reminder every 3 months to get your car tuned up. You have to build the value with the quality of your services. You have to collect the money. And then the next thing after you've started to put their credit card in, you might want to upsell them. An upsell for an auto shop may be synthetic oil, or we'll change your wipers for half price or something. So after you've already started to collect the money from a client, then you have to upsell them and then deliver the products. That's a pretty typical sales scenario as you go through right there. There's always, you always want that upsell. That's where the real money is. But we automate them with once they've given us their email address, we communicate. Then once they've said, oh yeah, I want to come in for a tune-up, then they go to a different channel. So you have to be able to automate that channel. These people, we continue to say, come in for a tune-up, come in for a tune-up, come in for a tune-up. These guys, you've already said, I want the tune-up. So now it's like, oh, when do we schedule you? Oh, do you want the synthetic? Oh, how do you manage all of that? And so you do need to automate it, but it has to be intelligent automation. If you say something goofy to a client and violate that communication channel, like you don't know who they are, then they're going to bail out. They're going to jump out on you really quite quickly. So make sure that your automation is working really quite well. I want to talk a little tiny bit about search engines and how they see pages, or deliver pages, I guess is a better description. So everything in the number 1 section of this particular page is Google AdWords. So you can see that there's 3 AdWords generally put at the top of a page. Those are people that are paying money for that keyword. So in my humble opinion, you certainly don't want to be part of that crowd. Google, and here's my little story. So Google makes all their money through paid advertising. And even in the very, very beginning, years ago, I'm going to say 12 or 15 years ago, when I was so excited because I could go to a client and say, I can put you at the top of the first page today. And they'll say, well, hell yeah, do that. And so I would go home or go back to the office and make a Google paid advertisement. Then they would show up that, within hours, literally at the top of that page for that very particular search term. The problem with that is that Google spends every dollar of your money. And I never, ever once in years and years and years of doing this, had Google come back to me and say, gee, we couldn't get enough clicks this month. So we have a little bit of surplus. Do you want us to roll that over or whatever you want to do? They figured out a way, or their algorithm figured out a way to spend every penny every single month. So if you went and said, I want this search term for auto shop, and then I'm willing to pay $500 a month, you might run out of money the first week of the month. If you said, I want to spend $2,000 on auto shop this month, the ad might run a little bit longer into the month, but they every time figured out how to spend all of the money that you've got. They never once came back and said, we couldn't spend it all. We couldn't have enough clicks. So their algorithm starts to show that in places that it doesn't belong. You might be your keyword that you're paying for might be auto shop. Well, maybe in the 3rd week of the month, they can't figure out how to spend it. So they start putting it on tire pages or on wheel pages or on muffler pages. But they always will have an algorithm that will show that ad with enough frequency that you run out of money every month. So that tells me that they're a little tiny bit nefarious, because that's the perfect record like that could never happen. So at any rate, I have a little bit of hard time with Google AdWords, but we do it for some of our people. To me, it's more of a an advertising ploy in the sense that if you own a shoe store and you're overstocked in galoshes in March, then you need to maybe, run an AdWord campaign for a short period of time to get rid of your inventory. So it's more maybe an inventory management tool. There's a lot of other tools or ways to think of that, but that's in fact what it is. The other part of this page is also paid advertisements. The next part of this page are snippets. Generally, that's referred to as a map right now. It's the best way that they're showing that. Then the fourth position, you have to get all the way down to the fourth position to have the first true organic search. These first three positions, 1, 2, and 3 of the organic search are going to command about 60% of all the searches on that page. The people recognize that these are ads. They recognize that these are paid. The map, it might be interesting or not, but about 60% of all the clicks on this page are going to happen in those first three positions on the organic search. So that's what a typical page looks like. So when you're searching for a keyword, you have to put the keyword in, auto parts or mattress shop or whatever it is you're going to put in. But this is kind of how keywords work. This is called the long tail of keywords. So if you put in the word Mustang, it's going to get about 9 million searches. That's globally, but that's what it's going to get. And nobody knows what you're searching for. You're searching for a car, you're searching for a horse, searching for a ranch in Nevada. You never know what Mustang really means. So all of a sudden now we go down to Ford Mustang, and it went from 9 million down to about 2 million searches. That's cut it back significantly, but now we're clearly talking about a Ford Mustang. When you go to Ford Mustang convertible, all of a sudden we're down to about 50,000 searches. And then if you said 1968 Ford convertible Mustang, you'd get about 600 searches. I guarantee you, if you have a 1968 Ford convertible Mustang and you want to sell it, I can sell it, because there's so few searches. We've gone so far down this long tail of keywords that even though there's only 600 people searching, those 600 people want to buy a 1968 Ford convertible Mustang. So, and that's the difference between a head keyword or a high keyword or a long tail keyword. This is a very long tail keyword. Just so you know, 50,000 is about the perfect number of searches. If I bring on a client, I look for keywords that get about 50,000 searches. That tends to give us the right number, the right mix of, looky-loos. These people are just looky-loos, and then people are actually shopping. So whatever the product is, 50,000 is about the perfect number. Sometimes I go up to 125 or whatever. Sometimes I drop down to 10,000, but that's a good number. And Boyd's got something to say.
I was just, you and I have been working on several projects together recently, and we find that there are some people who their perfect word is way too high, and then the very next long tail keyword only has 50 or 60 or 80. But if you're only selling and you only want to sell to just those 60, there's 60 really qualified leads. And that's, long tail can really help if all you need is a few people who want to buy what you have to sell. So it's not always about having the big word of Mustang. It's about that 68 Ford Mustang convertible. And it's, utilizing that. And it's the same way with social media. Some people say, well, I'm using these over here on my Facebook, on my websites. Aren't you going to use those in social media? They sometimes convert and sometimes they don't, because we don't use long tail keywords on social media, but we do use keywords that are important. And he's going to talk more about that now.
Yeah, I'm sorry I moved forward without letting you finish. But Boyd's absolutely right. And what I use kind of in the optimization world, I really am in love with the number 50,000. I frequently go down to 10,000. I grudgingly go down to 80. searches a month. These are all searches a month. But in the Facebook realm, yeah, and Boyd and I have been playing with this idea. I might optimize the site for a word with 50,000, and he might optimize his searches in Facebook for 80 or 50. And running out that long tail, that's honestly, that is where the money is. As long as you can get conversions, if you get 50 people to search and you're only trying to sell, you have an expensive unit like a bed or something, you know, you might be really content to have 50 sales a month, but the long tail requires Boyd to use a different number than the number that I use.
Well, and it also helps to, you know, to find other words that are stronger on social media, because they're not putting in, like when you sit down at Google, you're putting in, where can I find a 1968 Ford Mustang convertible? Where on Facebook, if they put that in, it would probably come up and say, oh, I don't know. It'll give you all the searches for every single word is what it'll do. Mm-hmm. Where on that one, especially if you're going into anywhere that has keywords, or as they call them, hashtags, you got to have the hashtag that's right for it. So Ford Mustang is as far as it goes. Or you go to Ford convertibles, or just convertibles, and then you pull in people from that, because you're not going to find these long tail keywords on social media, but they're extremely important on your website. And so understand that they're not the same between those two.
Agreed. Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk a little bit about architecture. We've kind of driven a little bit deep into the SEO world. But at the top of my pile are keywords. What keywords do you need to be found for? And we embed keywords in all types of meta content on the site, in the back side of the site. You don't necessarily see it there, but if I can have the back side of the site reflect the front side of the site. So again, if you're selling auto parts, and auto parts should be a keyword, but so that'll help find the site, but on individual pages, it might have very specific references to auto parts or whatever. Optimization is important. How do you rank? Ranking's an interesting animal, and how you rank and how quickly people find you and how long they stay on your site. It's called a bounce rate. How quickly do they find you and determine that you're not what they were looking for? So if they're looking for an alternator and they put in auto parts and then they find you, you might have 1 million auto parts on your site. They're not going to waste their time going through that if they can search again, search a second time, and then find an alternator site. So the second search, first search might be auto parts. The second search that they put in might be alternators. So they're going to find pretty quickly what it is that they need. Do you monitor your traffic? Do you have good content? Social media, or does your social media reflect what it is you do? Do you actually have a strategy? Google measures whether or not you have a strategy. There's something called a sitemap, and if you have a sitemap, it tells Google quickly how many pages are on the site, how to find them, how to navigate to them. If you don't have that, then you kind of get screwed. So you need to have a sitemap. Feedback would be a response. Do you have an attractive web design? I've never found this to be a problem, honestly, but you should have a good organized web design. Software development, site optimization, and link building. Those are the things that makes all good search engine optimizations. So, or SEO, excuse me. So you should pay attention to that. Funnels, basically, I mean, we spoke about them briefly before. You collect information, you add value, you take the money and try and upsell them. I want to point out the reason this slide's in here is because it's 10 times more efficient for you to keep a client, retain a client, than it is to go out and find new clients every time. So what you want to do is actually expose them, influence them, engage them, sell them, and then put them back in the hopper and start talking to them again, and close that sale a second time. This very quickly is a typical search. And if you guys can kind of use your imagination for a second, this page is the bottom of this page. It goes right here. So it's basically 2 pages stacked on top of each other. I searched for roofers near me, and this is what it showed up. 3 different people. It showed up a map, but you had to get that deep again to find the first organic listing. This is the first organic listing, and quite frankly, it's not even organic. Angie's List was the first one. Better Business Bureau was the third one. Yelp was the third one. Home Advisors was the fourth one. So I actually have to get to the bottom of the first page to find somebody like Kimball Roofing or somebody like that really does the repairs. These are all big money makers, so they show up in a different little category. Same thing's true here. I searched for something that didn't have a paid search. Those search for animal control, and that page sits on top of the other page. It was Goofy. I'm sorry, that was just animal control search without any real references. This was a friend of mine, Personal Sales Dynamics, and he tended to be on the top of his page. And this is his Google My Business page. So his Google My Business page, this is what it looked like. I searched for Personal Sales Dynamics. That's why I found him. It found him as the first page. And then it gave me all the information on how to contact him, what hours of the day he's open. So that was a map search. That was a individual search for Personal Sales Dynamics. But it showed a Google My Business page, is what I wanted to point out there. Worth, quality, and content is the way you need to think of everything. Why do you deserve to be found on the top of the first page? So if whatever category you're in, if you're, selling, whatever, CBD oil or something, why do you deserve to be at the top of that page? That's what the question you need to ask yourself. So do you have the best content? Do you have the best information? Are you fast? Is their server fast? Is your server slow? This goes on to words, and the number 2 position, the average length of content tends to be almost 4,500 words. And again, it's not a human being that is searching that page and reading it saying, oh, this guy's cool, we're going to rank him. It's all done by robots. These robots go out and crawl all of our sites. I have traps, we'll just call them robot traps, on some of my sites. And I can tell how often the site is hit by a robot. And so a lot of times, like say I post a new blog, and it'll come read the top quarter of the blog and then go away, and then come back and read the bottom quarter of the blog, and then come back and read the top third of the blog, and then come back and read the bottom half of the blog. So by that point in time, I know that it's read the whole blog, and I want it to rank that blog, but that might have taken a week for it to do that. And then it might have to go back to Google Home Office and then understand what it was that it read. So then it puts it in that index of sites, that pile of sites that we call it. And so sometimes it takes, weeks for it to understand all that information or want to publish all that information or index that information. These are all factors that are associated with my normal course of business. On a daily, day, I worry about these different domain factors, page level factors, site level factors, backlinking factors, user interactions. Are the people staying there? Site algorithm rules, are they breaking any of the rules? Social signals, which would be Facebook and all of that other stuff. Branding signals, are they a recognizable brand? Do they stand out? Are they infamous already, like Westinghouse or Rozognowski's or whatever? So this was just like a sampling that I pulled out of maybe 20 factors that I look at on a regular basis. The things that I want to start to point out to you is that the top 3 sites get all of the clicks. These are all things that make you rank better. So do you have an HTTPS? Is it a secure site? Is your site mobile friendly? That's become more and more important. Boyd's looking at his clock. I gotta hurry. Page speed is a matter. Schema data is a matter. Social signals matter. Quality backlinks all matter. These are 10 things. If you guys want, take a quick screenshot of this page. These are 10 things that are positive tips and 11 things that are negative tips. So think about that. The one thing I want to point out here that drives me out of my brain is grammar and spelling issues. If you have grammar and spelling, that will drive you down negatively. The way that we search is with our phones these days. I'm not even going to get into that. If you need to rank on a mobile index, you need to do that. We need to have a need for speed. That's the AMP index or the advanced mobile paging. Here's some samples of pages that I've viewed recently that get 0 out of 100 scores. And you can see how many red marks they have over here. I didn't realize I was so far behind, Boyd. The bottom of this, or the point of this, is that 4 out of 5 people need to see a positive review. That's what Boyd was talking about, reviews. That one we don't care about. That one we don't care about. This one, low price. These are things that affect why we buy. Low price is one. Shopping convenience is one. Comparable thing is free shipping, saving time, easy to buy. And here's the one that I love. 85% of people will trust a review more than they will trust their friend. So if you're talking to your friend face to face and he says, oh yeah, I'd go to this tire shop, 85% of people will go and read the review and not trust their friend. They'll trust the review more than they trust their fire shop. This is the list of directory listings that Boyd talked about, and or citations, excuse me. And you definitely need citations. All of them need continuity. You need to be have the same information on every one of them. That's what we were talking about, is that we have a software program where you put in one dashboard and then it will go out and make sure that the continuity is there across the board. Digital reputation is important. People shop at different times a day. Speed is highly important. They're all circles within circles. This is a list of CRMs that people need. You need a CRM to keep track of your clients. And there's no easy way. You just have to do all the hard work. These were all great examples of people doing hard work that I loved. And remember that websites are not a destination, they're a journey. They're always going to evolve. You're always going to be changing them. So don't expect to get to the end of the road and be done. That just means you need to start over and start testing and checking everything out. And SEO in 360 is a place where I'd like you to go. I will give you a free speed test if you'll go there, fill out that information. It's SEOin360.com. And there's all kinds of cool books and SEO stuff there. And if anybody contacts me today, I will give you a free $500 value. It's an SEO report and a half-hour consultation of your website. Please go to that address there and give me a positive rating. I need more ratings. So everybody take a picture of that
QR code.
QR code. That I couldn't think of it for a second. And then that's it for today. So thank you. Remember that it's always proper web design, media, SEO bundled with a sales process and a good trainer. You guys should have a sales trainer work with you. And that's all I got for today.
Well, I have a couple things here. Jeremy asked some questions. I've answered them in the chat, but then I realized that not everybody saw the questions that he sent. So what Jeremy had was, where do podcasts fit into the whole equation? Are they as worthwhile as videos and blogging? Yes, they're right on the same level as videos. So be sure to pay attention to that. And so, but you got to do it the same way you do videos. You got to have them on your website and on a video cast place. Now, if they're a video cast, on a podcast place, if they're a video cast, also put them on someplace like YouTube, and then you'll be able to even get better SEO. That's what that is all about. The second question was, as far as websites and social media sites, which is preferred by customers, white background or black background? I didn't get into that side of it as much, but let me tell you one thing that Jim and I talked about a few weeks ago. We did a training on websites versus landing pages. Landing pages are great, but you have to only cover one subject. Okay, if you, and I put in here an example of, if somebody's looking for information on swamp coolers, the landing page that's all about swamp coolers, and that's all it's about, is going to win over a website that has heating, air conditioning, swamp coolers, because it's all about all of those things, and this is all about one thing. Okay, now black and white. Let me tell you a interesting statistic I just saw yesterday. I don't know if Jim's even seen this one. 94% of people dislike having black on white on black rather than black on white, and they say it's harder for their eyes to adjust and use it when you use the dark mode. But they are offering the dark mode on almost all phones now and on your computers. But be careful. If 94% prefer it the other way, I'd probably stay with that 94% putting black on white. You know,
Yeah,
the white background.
I would have guessed that the number was very, very high, and the bounce rate changes. So if people are bouncing off your site, that will kill your SEO.
So until it's become more 50-50, I wouldn't even try it at this point. I would still stay black on white or color on white. You know, that's the logical way. People still think that it needs to be like a book, and that's how books are made. And so understand that.
You know, you mentioned color on white, but when people start to get fancy and they put pink or gold on white, then you really can't read it.
Yeah.
So
and you got to understand, there are some people who just are colorblind, and colorblind doesn't go away when you're looking at a computer screen. And so sometimes different shades of green, you put them together and it all looks the same to someone. That's even though it's a light green on a dark green, doesn't matter. So you got to be careful.
You
Hey,
know,
Mark.
you had to address that with me recently with regard to Facebook, because I opted in to experiment with the white on black, and it was very difficult to read.
It was.
Yes.
In fact, you ended up changing it back the other day.
I did,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Much easier to navigate. And I think people get sold on the uniqueness of it, but they're going to find that the general public responds the way that you've described.
Yeah. And that's what you have to understand, is you've got to go with what the public wants, even though you may prefer it, you know, or maybe you like it at 2 o'clock in the morning, so you're not waking up your spouse. But understand, most people don't want that on their websites, and they will bounce off of it too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Mark, and he's going to talk about sales and how to get more. So we've got you down to, they're ready to want to do business with you.
Right.
We're going to give you to Mark, who's now going to take it from there.
Well, welcome everybody, and I'm excited to be with you here today. Jim, thank you. Some great insights. Boyd, same to you today. I've had the opportunity to work with these gentlemen now for a while, and I've really been impressed with the insights that they bring to the table and their ability to navigate, you know, the digital arena, the social marketing arena. And there were a couple of things today that I wanted to expand upon with regard to selling that they had touched on, and that is, we don't necessarily know what you're doing exceptionally well and what you could improve upon. I call it strengths and deficiencies. With regard to that, it's somewhat of a generic approach when we have an opportunity to conduct a webinar or a conference such as this. With regard to that, I'm going to open this up to any of you at any given time. If you have specific struggles that you feel you're facing out there when selling with your consumer base, whether it be a client or whether it be a customer, you know, business to business sales versus retail, for example, the patterns are very similar in the sales process, but it amazes me how often the majority out there are skipping relevant steps and methodology to being able to take their customer and serve them in a manner that you're not closing anybody. There's no hard close when you're selling correctly. It's a gentle hand and helping them off the fence. Because when you serve somebody properly, in most instances, it's not about the fact that they may not be interested in what you have to bring to the table, whether it be goods or services. It's the fear, I think many of you agree with me, and they're separating with their hard-earned money. And we all face that as consumers out there in the marketplace. I'm going to address some very specific things for you today. And again, open it up to you if you'd like to reach out to Boyd, pose any questions. We will address those because my greatest concern is helping you address the specifics that you're encountering that you feel are holding you back. And when we're doing a conference like this, we're at a disadvantage with regard to knowing what you perceive your specific needs and wants to be, or what we know your specific wants or desires are, goals, that type of thing. So we've got to work in generics, the big picture of what we have found through our experience to be the primary problems most individuals or businesses are facing with regard to their marketing, with regard to their sales processes, and so forth. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been selling now for, it certainly gives, if my face doesn't, this certainly gives my age away, maybe both do. I've been selling now for 42 years. I started as a very young man working in the Fortune 500, Fortune 50. I launched my career, so to speak, with Zale Corporation, Zales Jewelers, the largest global jeweler on the face of the planet, at least at that time. I've worked for companies like CalFed Bank and also, of course, GTE Directories, which is a Fortune 50 company doing business globally. Last I recall, 120 plus countries around the globe, the #1 publisher on the face of the planet. And although I'd had some very significant training before I was recruited by GTE Directories, they invested back in those days, and this is 30 plus years ago, they invested $100,000 into us as candidates, as premise representatives in the field working with their clients. And $100,000 back then, well, it went a lot further than it does here 30 plus years later. That's a significant amount of money then, and even today, to invest in somebody that's representing a product or service. I think you'd agree with that. There's a reason they did, because our clients, who could consist of physicians and attorneys, or law firms if you prefer, might have several full-page ads in their directories. I know this is dinosaur stuff. Now, most of this, of course, is online representation, which is why it's so important. But back just a couple of decades, directories were prevalent in our society. That's where people went to look for any type of product or service, unless they already knew where it was located. And that comes down to your location and visibility if you're running some type of retail establishment. But to step back to this, back in those days, Google was a directory in essence. And you had your phone companies that developed their own directories, and or you had companies like GTE who had their own phone companies and they published their own directories. And then they also published directories around the globe for other phone companies, thus making them the largest publisher on the globe. Anyway, with respect to that, if you were dealing, for example, with a law firm that practiced in several areas of the law, they might have not just one full-page ad because they wanted to dominate. They might have 2 or 3 or even 4. And back in those days, a full page, 4-color, which would be a full color ad. For those of you that aren't familiar with the marketing end of it, 4-color allows you to move to a full color display, photographs, etc. That ad in a full page would run safely 4,000 a month, 48,000 a year. And if you were running 4 of those, you were approaching $200,000 a year. No, let me qualify. Yeah, close to 200,000 a year, because let's just round it up to 50,000 times 4, a couple $100,000. That's a lot of money. So one client to them was worth a significant amount of revenue over the course of the next decade. So they made sure that we were trained and trained well for every scenario that you could possibly encounter. Let me run down the path of a few things that I find most in sales struggle, and they may not even realize they're truly struggling. And the same for those of you that are operating businesses, that are selling for yourself, or you have a sales team. Where most struggle, and I'm going to come back to the basics of the areas that I train. And by the way, if for any reason you had to part before we're completed here in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to give out my phone number right now, because you can reach out to me. I'm going to make an offer at the end of my segment here in this conference for you to reach me directly, in an offer that I believe should be something that would incentivize you to take advantage of it, because there's no cost to you. And when we can learn just through the opportunity to visit with somebody briefly and maybe come away with a couple of golden nuggets, I'd say it's time well invested on our behalf. And at that point, we can investigate if we want to go to the next level. And I'm discerning about who I take on as a client, because I'd rather lose somebody's business than do them a disservice. And I want to make sure that I can create the impact for them that I have for so many. And let me state this: I've helped create millionaires in various industries over the course of the last 23 years as a trainer, a coach, and a consultant in the business and sales realm. But let me give you my number. I'm going to give it out to you direct. You can call me direct. And if I don't answer, please leave a message and a good time to get back to you, and I will. The number is 801-808-5433. 801-808-5433. Now, you may be familiar with a lot of national names out there, provide sales training. I want you to know I'm unique, I'm different. Nobody that I've encountered out there, I don't care what scale of success they've achieved in marketing themselves as a sales trainer, I'm the best of the best in the industry. And I'm reachable. You can communicate with me. Just try to get Tony Robbins' number directly, or Jordan Belfort for that matter. There's my phone number, and I invite you to reach out to me, of course, after the conference today, and I'll be glad to connect with you at a time that's convenient for the two of us, and we can explore where it is that you may be deficient and how it could be holding you back and what it could be costing you. Now that comes down to a process that I refer to as discovery, which we're going to touch on in just a couple of minutes. But remember, we're working with the big picture here, and we're working in generics because we don't know at this moment what your specific deficiency may be or where your strengths lie, for that matter. Everybody's unique and every business is relatively unique, but there are common foundations that transition from one industry to the next, or from one company to the next. So I'm going to touch on some of those today. For the last 23 years plus, as I've stated, I've been working as a consultant, a coach, and a sales trainer. And there's two areas that I've found that are critical in working with the individuals within a company or individual sales associates themselves. And the first is skill set. Now that can incorporate systems or techniques, systems, formulas, even right down to verbiage. And the other is the mindset arena, because you can provide somebody the surefire way to be successful in the sales arena. And if they can't see themselves achieving that level of success, or they can't see themselves achieving that volume in sales or that type of income, they're going to find a way to hold them back. And I discovered this a couple of years in to my career as a trainer and as a coach and consultant coach, etc., that I was providing valuable tools that I knew were highly effective in the sales arena. and yet people were failing to implement them. Now, two things were happening there, one of two things, or both. One is I was failing to convince them of the value of what they were being exposed to and why they needed to start changing their ways and implementing the concepts that I was introducing them to, and or they were self-sabotaging at some level. And it's a lot more common than you might think. And so I needed to work with their mindset. That took me back to my childhood, and I was a strange child. I had a partner of mine that is still a dear friend today, no longer my partner, because he had stated that, Mark, you're still a strange adult. Now you're still strange. You're just, and there was truth to that. I'm bold, and I don't allow anything to stand in my way. And some of you may relate to that, and some of you may not. Sometimes my confidence can be misinterpreted as an arrogance, and I'm anything but. I care about people. I care about my clients. And that's why I move through the methodology that I'm going to share with you so that I know I am serving my clients well. Now, keep this in mind. They say that people buy from people they like. And I have to challenge that. I think that is icing on the cake, so to speak, but it's not a key ingredient by any means. People purchase from people they trust, that they have confidence in. It's that simple. So when you can win a client or customer's confidence, the probability is, as long as you've shown them value in the service or product that you're providing, and you've shown them how it's going to resolve their problem or their pain, they're going to do business with you, whether they like you or not. Now, keep this in mind, and I think most of you will agree with me on this, that people can really like you and not buy from you. I see it all the time out there in the market with companies and individuals that I've worked with, is that the customer will say, you know, Bob, you've done a great job. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'll be back. And they don't come back. And they liked Bob, and Bob was a nice guy, but they got on down the road and somebody else was more proficient in understanding that individual's need or needs and wants, because they cared to move through the right process to discover, to understand that potential client, and then they may have done a better job at establishing the value of the product or service that they provide. So these are critical ingredients to anybody's success. I'm going to go down a little path that, you know, for the last 23 years, I've worked with virtually every industry imaginable, and I've taken companies in short order, in under 90 days, to a 20 to 50% increase in total sales volume. And there's no exaggeration. I'm going to direct you to my website. You can go to the maxongroup.com. That's the Maxon, M-A-X-O-N, group.com. Parallel to the site or landing page you would have seen that brought you to this conference today, which is the maxongroup.com/sales conference. Just go direct to the maxongroup.com and you will see numerous video recorded testimonials of clients that I've worked with and the types of impacts that we've created. I've also taken companies to 100%, even 300% growth in just 12 months. And there's a reason behind this, because I'm extremely good at what I do. And I'm extremely thorough in how I approach it. So let's talk about the generic realm of most businesses in the sales arena. And the generic realm is that most businesses or salespeople fail to follow a formulated system that provides them consistency of experience for their consumer. It's that simple. There's no consistency. I equate it to a pilot flying by the seat of their pants. I will tell you that between visual rating in piloting and instrument rating in piloting. And if you're with a visual pilot that gets socked into a fog or cloud bank, if you prefer, you're in trouble, because you can become disoriented very, very quickly, and you will become disoriented very, very quickly. With an instrument rated pilot, they then turn their instincts over to the trust of those instruments, which are finely tuned. And there are a number of these instruments, without going into great detail, that allow them to verify the accuracy of each instrument because they're working in conjunction with one another. That's how the sales process works. So let me go through a simple foundation and you will recognize whether you're using something parallel to this or you're not. But if you're meeting with a customer, and it really doesn't matter whether or not they're responding to a marketing piece or to a social media piece, or as a result of Jim's proficiency in digital marketing. Boyd, I didn't mean to leave you out, his proficiency in social media. If they're responding and they would now be considered a warm lead, so to speak, there still needs to be an introduction or a recap of the introduction. And the introduction is your first step of an effective sales process. In retail, you would refer to it as a meet and greet. Your customer walks in the door, there's a system that you move through in that meet and greet. If you're in direct sales, let's say you're out there to the marketplace, or an example, I've had clients in the insurance industry, I've had clients we've been extremely successful with in the merchant banking industry, advertising, you name it. In that instance, you may be reaching out to a prospective customer that you would refer to as a cold call. I don't like that language personally. It doesn't sound very inviting. As a matter of fact, so many of the relationships I've built over the years, the friendships I've established with clients, were as a result of me reaching out to them, or somebody on my team in telemarketing reaching out for the first time, having had no previous or no referral. So on that note, I look at everybody as a potential member of my family or a potential friend. Let's just put it that way. People are good. Most everywhere you go, I've found the majority of people are inviting, they're caring, and when you treat them right, they're going to show you courtesy. That's the kind of customer that I want in the first place, or the type of client that I want. I think you'd agree with that. It's the one that we chase the hardest often, or we force the issue, or they're the most resistant. Not that we can't break down that resistance, and I'm going to address some of those issues here momentarily, but if they work you on price, for example, they're probably going to be the most difficult client you could ask for, because good clients are looking for, or good customers are looking for quality and service. They're looking for a great experience. They're looking to know that they're with somebody that they can trust, have confidence in, that's going to take care of them. And interestingly enough, about 35% of the market, there have been vast studies done on this, about 35% of the market does not put price up at the top of their list. They put quality of experience at the top of their list. They're looking for a great interaction with the people that are serving them, you salespeople, you business owners. And that 35%, interestingly enough, constitutes 95%, no exaggeration here, 95% of the big ticket sales that most you are selling. The other 65% put price first. It's the top of their priority. And they're going to run around and run you in circles looking for the lowest price. Now, those good buyers, those premium buyers that we're talking about, and the ones that are typically most qualified to be able to acquire your product or service, let alone the higher ticket sales, those people are putting price down. It can be important, but it's down a few notches from, as I stated, the quality of experience that they are having in that interaction with you, and their belief that you're going to be there to serve them long term, take good care of them. So I'm more inclined to want to pursue the 35%. I'll give you an example. We just did a conference for the mattress industry, which could be paralleled to virtually any big ticket sale in retail. Furniture would be another example of this. And it's interesting, if you sell one mattress for $5,000, and let's say that ticket includes a mattress, a power foundation, a mattress protector, some pillows. Next thing you know, you've got a ticket for $5,000. How many $500 sales do you have to make to equate to that one mattress when you're dealing with the equivalent margins? You got to sell 10 of them. So you can serve one customer and one customer extremely well to the 10 customers over here that are looking for the smaller ticket product. Now, I'm not saying throw out the consumer that constitutes that smaller ticket sale. I'm just saying you can't afford to lose the ones in that 35% bracket that can purchase the bigger ticket items from you. You want to take good care of them, and you want to provide the optimum experience. So the first thing would be, in any sales process, whether you're on the phone selling insurance or selling merchant banking, whatever it might be, business to business sales, or any type of solution for that business, you're going to have your introduction. And your introduction should contain, and I hope you have your pens or papers available. And you notice I don't have a PowerPoint up for this because I like to just share it. I want you to write it down. I don't want you to just look at it. Write it down, because when you write it down, are you hearing what I'm saying? When you write it down, you activate the brain in such a manner that it requires, it's like an exercise, and your body becomes conditioned. So once you write it down, you've actually gone through the physical process of writing it, and it becomes real. Secondly, you're going to look at it right there in your own handwriting, or printing if you prefer, and you're going to see it again, and it's going to imprint on your mind. And I want you to remember these things because they make a considerable difference in our success. So write down introduction if you're in business to business sales, or direct business to consumer. Let's say you're in home improvement lines, or if you're in retail, write down meet and greet, which would be your introduction in this case. Your introduction should contain an ICR. An ICR is contained an interest creating remark. Some of you might be familiar with it, being referred to as an elevator commercial. In about 30 seconds, you can explain to somebody what it is you do to captivate their interest, that they want to come back and they want to hear, or excuse me, they want to stay with you and they want to learn more. They're going to listen closer. So that interest creating remark should consist of who you are, who your business is, in addition to that, what you do. Now, when I say what you do, Evans, I don't mean in great detail, anything but. What we're going to talk about is, what do you provide your customer, or what do you provide your client with regard to service or product that creates an end benefit for them. So the what you do is the big picture benefit. Focus on the benefit. What is in it for them? What would gain their interest? And I'll give you an example of this in just a moment. So the ICR, what is in it for them? All right. And why would they want to continue to listen to you or ask some questions of you, or more importantly, provide you the opportunity to ask them the pertinent questions that you need to uncover so that you can best serve their wants and needs. So the ICR, interest creating remark, who you are, who your business is, what you will accomplish in big picture benefit to them. All right, don't worry about how you go about it. Those are the two key things that you want to address in that ICR. And then again, if you don't know their specific needs or wants at this point in time, it's going to be generic. What are most business owners looking for? I'm going to give you a big example of how to implement an ICR. Years ago, I was working with a company in the .com arena, and I was helping them develop their sales team. And it was a startup company, as obviously so many .coms were just 20 years ago. And the key was a great name. You had to have a great name. And they developed a very good name. And it was so interesting because I could see the sales team going out, and in many instances I was accompanying them. I trained them, and a customer would say, "Oh yeah, I'd heard of you." It was a startup. They couldn't have heard of them. So the name was an ICR in and of itself. Then the next thing that was really, really interesting was we needed to capture, as I say, their undivided attention. So one of the ways we went about that is Bob or Mr. Johnson, and that would depend upon the market that they were reaching out to, because some markets in the country are more formal than other markets. And if you're too formal in an informal market, you can throw your prospect, or if you're informal in a formal market, you can definitely offend somebody. So you've got to kind of test the waters there, know your market, and then test the people you're reaching out to. But let's just go the name Mr. Featherstone, for example. Mr. Featherstone, the reason I'm contacting you today. Now here's just some tidbits, all right? Most people, Mr. Featherstone, how are you today? I'm going to maybe push a few buttons and ruffle ruffle, no pun intended on Mr. Featherstone's name, but ruffle a few feathers today, because I'm going to tell you, if you don't know them, you don't have a right to be asking them. And you're wasting their energy and yours, and you're getting off on the right footing, or wrong footing, excuse me, with them. Number one, how many times have you been addressed by a telemarketer, somebody reaching out to you, and they open with your name and then they ask you how you're doing today? And what is it you really want to know? Why are you calling me? Just please cut to the chase. That's what they want to know. So be refreshing, be unique, go right to the point of your call. Mr. Featherstone, this is Mark Maxon here. I'm calling on behalf of XYZ Company. Quickly established. The reason is we work with businesses much like yours, helping them drive traffic through the front door in greater volumes than they've ever experienced before, getting their phone to ring with greater frequency, with better quality prospects, better quality customers, better quality clients that are interested in the products and services that they provide. As such, we've been able to increase their sales quite dramatically, and their profits follow. And that's why I'm reaching out to you today. Now, I'm not professing that we're right for you in any way, shape, or form at this time. I wouldn't be so bold. All right. What I am proposing is that certainly the possibility we could accomplish for you what we have for so many others would be worthy of your time, or worthy of a few minutes wisely invested on your behalf. Would you agree with me? I'm going to take you, and again, remember what I explained to you earlier, is I like to explain to my clients why I'm teaching them to do what I'm teaching them to do, because I need them to buy in, because I know how effective it is and how it transitions from one industry to another effectively. So here you go. One, I introduced myself. I didn't ask him how he was doing today. I got to the point. He wants to know why I'm calling, or she wants to know why I'm calling. I told them I'm calling because we do this. Did I get into specifics on how we accomplish that? No, I didn't. I'm going to give them the opportunity to ask me, well, can you tell me how you go about that? Can you tell me a little bit more? And that's what I want them to do, because now they've engaged. But I'm going to stay in control of those questions, because life will teach you, business will teach you, that the individual that is asking the questions is ultimately in control of the direction of the interview or the conversation, if you prefer. So let's go down this path. If Mr. Featherstone came back and says, well, can you explain a little bit further what it is you do? I'm not sure what you do. I appreciate that. And Mr. Featherstone, I want you, by the way, if I may, can I use your first name? Would that be all right? Sure, you may. You've asked permission. Again, it creates respect, credibility, all right, that you're showing him professionalism. That's my take on it. Now, Utah, for example, for those of you in Utah, it's a very informal market. That might put some people off. But if you're back in New York or Chicago or San Francisco or Los Angeles, you're going to find a lot of people really will value you being more formal in your initial contact with them. So he has asked me what it is in detail. I want you to know, Mr. Featherstone. Oh, Bob, thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. Bob, I want you to know that I'm not being evasive when I tell you that we offer a vast array of services and or skills or expertise to help the clients we work with that get them to the results I just described to you. Now, as such, if I just start throwing out little ideas as to how we've helped this client, it may not be appropriate to your specific needs. That's why we have formulated a highly tuned discovery analysis that allows us, through a line of questioning, a very specific line of questioning, to determine whether or not we can create that impact for you. So we'll know, based upon your feedback, where your strengths lie, where your deficiencies lie, and we can show you how we can shore up those deficiencies and, in all probability, help you expand where you're already efficient to become even more successful in the sales process. Seriously, this requires approximately 30 minutes to an hour on your questions. What would be, and I'm going to move to the assumptive close if you prefer, or call to action. What would be the best time for us to get together and visit with you, either by conference, okay, so you can use this technology here today, or by phone, or face to face. What would be the best time for us to get together for that 30 minutes to 60 minutes? And I can assure you this, at the end of that discovery analysis of your business, even if we come to the mutual decision that this is not right for you, you're going to come away with some gems that you can implement in some capacity to serve yourself for the time you've invested. Now, if I see that we wouldn't be a great fit for you based upon our experience and track record, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be very straightforward with you, because I'd rather lose your business than do you a disservice. It doesn't serve either one of us. If I'm confident we can accomplish great feats for you as we have for so many others, I will let you know. And I will share with you at that time why in great specifics, answer any questions you have, and then the ultimate decision will be up to you. You'll tell us how you'd like to proceed. Now, if you go back and you listen to this, to the verbiage, you're going to find that I put him, in his mind, or her for that matter, in complete control. But the fact is, I'm the one that is in control at that time, which brings us back to this, and I hope you can see that. I'm going to bring this back to this introduction in a business-to-business transaction or a business-to-end consumer direct. That it's so important to sell the value of a discovery, which is your second step. So we're moving from introduction number one, which contained that ICR, that interest creating remark, all right, to now a discovery analysis. Now, why is a discovery analysis so important? I'm going to go back to Stephen Covey. You know, I grew up in the sales industry when it said fact finding or probing, which isn't a great pictorial image. Could bring a lot of things into mind. I didn't like fact finding because it was so impersonal. I loved it when Stephen came along a few decades back and said, seek first to understand, then seek to be understood. And this is a breakdown that I see with so many in sales, is they're going out on the assumption that their product or their service is right for everybody. And I don't care how good it is, you need to understand your prospective customer or client. You need to understand how they're thinking. You need to understand what they've experienced, where they've been, where they are today, where they'd like to be. Now, I'll give you an example. Even in my industry, I work with companies that want to grow, that want to improve their sales significantly, their conversion ratios, that would like to minimize any expenditure, for example, in advertising, and say, you know, I've got a lot of customers, it's just I'm not as closing as many of them as I'd like to. Well, great. Let me share with you how we can address that. But first, I want to know what it is you've been doing. Why wouldn't I want to know what they've been doing? Because some of what they've been doing could be spot on. Some of it may be way off. And by understanding them, I now know how to advise them, and my recommendations carry a lot more credibility because they know I care. See, there's an old adage, people don't know, or people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. And the way to show you care is to understand them. So I loved what Stephen did. He took that age-old fact-finding or probing, and then what would be, presentation, move to the presentation, or even a recommendation for that phase. And you have no right, we have no right to be recommending to somebody something before we understand them. So in a nutshell, Stephen did a great job, and it broke the sale into everyday communication. Seek first to understand others, and then seek to be understood. Bravo, brilliant job. Incidentally, by just altering the language on something that had been around for thousands of years, the man went on, Stephen Covey, to make millions and millions of dollars just by introducing that concept in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Now, with regard to this, most of us make the mistake of selling that product without understanding. So what we really need to do is we need to fine-tune ourselves to understand the customer before we make that recommendation. So we better have a powerful meet and greet or a powerful introduction. That introduction can be CR, and there's one thing we're selling: the value in that customer or client meeting with us. Again, either through is this today online or through a phone call, or if your business calls for it, a face-to-face meeting. We need to sell the value of that meeting and discovery. That's simple. I've just given you one example today on how to do that, and there are numerous. And I've got it broken down to a methodology. I've got it broken down to the science. And actually, I like to refer to it as the science and arts combined, because the delivery is the art. The science is the mechanics or system behind it. So now that I've sold the value of meeting, or you've sold the value of meeting with you so that you can understand their needs and wants, you can take them through a specific line of questioning to know where they've been, where they are, what's worked for them, what hasn't, where they'd like to be. Now we're face to face in some capacity, or at least in communication in some capacity, where they've agreed to answer a line of questions that I have. Most businesses that I encounter out there do not have a discovery, let alone an adequate discovery. So with that, once we move through those questions or that discovery analysis phase, we are empowered to be able to make a recommendation. We've elevated ourselves from a sales associate to a consultant in the eyes of that prospect. I hope you can see this, because it's valid. It's absolutely real. Now what happens is we can then transition from that discovery to that recommendation, provide our presentation, and show how those solutions through our recommendation are going to better them. And as we move through that process, we're going to draw them to agreement statements or agreement questions. Now, Bob, based upon what you shared with me, I believe, and I feel extremely confident, this would provide you one of the solutions you're looking for, or the solution you're looking for, whichever it might be in your instance. And your thoughts on that? Do you agree with me on that? Okay. Yes, I do. I like that. We might go through that process 2, 3, 4, half a dozen times, depending upon the product or service you're providing. And they've been in agreement with me along the way. Now, Bob, considering everything that we've covered today, is there anything that I may have missed that you thought of that this would create the positive impact that you're looking for to get yourself where you want to be? And I'm going to listen, and Bob may start telling me, you know, Mark, I think you've done a good job, but you missed the biggest thing. Really? Tell me about it. Soon as that individual telling me how this is going to improve their business, the tables have turned. I'm not selling. He's selling himself, or she's selling herself. And the next thing you know, it's scripture. You know, if you've got an individual faith, we often say, you know, it's biblical, or it could be, you know, a number of different religions for that matter. But if the client says it, it might as well be written in the great book. It's that simple versus you saying it or me saying it, because it's open to skepticism under those circumstances. All right, so now we're making that recommendation phase. We're drawing them into, we've entered the recommendation phase. We're drawing them into agreement. And we ultimately are going to want to, step number 4, call them. So let me go back to these steps with you real quick. Introduction for your meet and greet in retail, containing your ICR, which is a sub-step A. Okay, number 2 is your discovery analysis, making sure you have the right one. And by the way, while I'm there, something I wish I could have gotten into a lot more information, but I have time constraints here. And that is, that discovery should be answering the critical questions that you understand about the industry that client's in. Because when you're asking the right questions, they're going to perceive that you have the knowledge and that you're not just a salesperson, but you have a consultative edge because of your understanding of their industry. What else do you know? You're sure asking the right questions. Anyway, so step number 2, the discovery analysis. Step number 3, the recommendation, which can contain your presentation, the agreement statement. Some of you old schoolers might recognize that as a tie down. I don't like that verbiage at all. I think it, again, negative connotation. We're not tying anybody down. We're looking to find agreement with them so that we can serve them. Then we're going to move from that recommendation phase to the call to action. And you notice that some of you might be thinking, well, don't you mean closing, Mark? I prefer the marketing or advertising end, calling to action. Good ads that are looking for immediate response are going to have a call to action. So they're going to have an offer, they're going to have a call to action, and they're going to have an urgency creator. So with regard to that, we want to have all those things working in tandem to get that customer motivated to act now or to act today. And I think many of you feel that way. Last thing in the world most of us want to hear is call me back in 2 weeks. I'll think about it. With regard to that, once we call them to act, we're likely going to hear what many of you might refer to as an objection. Again, I don't use that verbiage other than I know you'll recognize what I'm talking about. I use the verbiage concern. We all have concerns. And one thing that we have to remember is that our consumer is very much like us. We're all human. We all bleed red. All right. They're protecting their interests just like you do as a consumer. They're protecting their interests, and there could be a lot of things that they're processing and they're just not sharing with you. They're holding back because they're afraid you might use it against them and put some pressure on them. And none of us want to be pressured. In my work and in my books, I teach the individuals I work with how to move through each one of these phases, each one of these steps, and at the end, literally find themselves in an assumptive situation where it's very, very simple to move through the process and close them. I've got a little card trick. And when you reach out to me, you're going to want to ask me, Mark, will you show me that card trick? Because I'm going to show you how through methodology, you're going to take your customer from the time you have that first conversation, that meet and greet or that introduction, all the way to them writing out a check to you or pulling out their credit card and handing it to you, systematically with an efficiency conversion ratio that will surpass most anybody that you know out there writing business today. And I'm not kidding you. Get over to my website, themaxongroup.com. You can also go to my author site for the books. And I know we're giving one of the books away today just for you having attended. So congratulations. Enjoy it. It will be an electronic copy. Read it, study it, use it. This works. I have, as I stated at the onset today, made millionaires in multiple industries working with them in the very techniques I'm going to expose you to. So with regard to that, let's go back to a few things that we might hear at the end of the sale, where you've been closing, as you may refer to it. I call it a call to action. And somebody says, well, Mark, you know, I appreciate it. You've done a good job today, but I need to think about it. All right. I'm going to teach you exactly what to say and why you're going to say it and what it's going to accomplish for you when somebody says, or we need to talk about it. In the case of partnership of some form, professional or personal, we need to talk about it. Teach you exactly what to say and what it's not canned. It's proven to work, and you can formulate it in your own style, your own words. Now, there's some words you're going to want to use that I'm going to emphasize to you. I'm just telling you, it works. Why try to reinvent the wheel when it works so well? All right. Well, I'm going to say this. We're going to have you flying high, so you may not even need the wheel when it's all said and done. Just use the formula. Anyway, let's go back to a couple of other things. I've encountered so many times people saying, well, Mark, I call them, let's say they're business to business sales, and they say, we wouldn't be interested. What do most sales associates say on the phone or telemarketers when somebody responds, I wouldn't be interested? Would you mind telling me what it is you're not interested in? You don't want to do that. Okay. Number one, it's confrontational. It's condescending, it's confrontational, it's argumentative, and it's a quick way to alienate somebody, and it's the end of the conversation. The fact is, you've got to give them new information before you challenge them. And there's a subtle way that's non-offensive to challenge them. So for example, how do you get somebody to change their mind? When they've dug in on something, you introduce new information. That new information becomes your leverage to get them to reconsider and make a different decision. We're going to teach you how to do that. All right. So when you hear somebody, I'm not interested, or I've got another company that I'm working with right now, we're very happy with them. Have you heard that one before? Most of you have. And, that's great. We're going to teach you exactly how to handle that one. And on and on and on. You know what? I've heard it said before, how many times I'm working with companies, we run up against hundreds of different objections that we encounter. And I'm going to say it's not true. Most every circumstance, every company I've ever worked with, every sales associate, there are no more than 2 handfuls worth varying concerns that they could come up against in the meet and greet or introduction. I'm not interested. I'm happy with the company I'm presently using. We tried that before. It didn't work for us. These are the generics. With methodology and precision, we teach you how to overcome each one of these and get in front of that customer that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten in front of. So all of a sudden, if you're getting in front of more customers that were not meeting with you before, and you do everything else exactly the same that you've been doing, you're still going to make more sales. What about this? What about if you're not only getting in front of more customers than you ever before, but you're getting the proper information from those customers through that discovery analysis so that you can make more sound and accurate recommendations to them. Okay, so now you've increased your sales even further. And then what if you were even better when you are better at transitioning from your discovery to a recommendation phase and delivering the power of that recommendation with confidence and conviction so that they believe in that product, because they're going to believe in you when you believe in yourself and the product and service that you're representing. And then you just increased more of your sales. So if you capture a 10% or 20% increase on the front end, and another 10%, 15% on the second step, and another 5% on the third step, and then you call them to action. And when they hit you with, I've got to think about it, I told you I wasn't buying today, known that up front, by the way, and everything should have been catered to respond to that so that you eliminated that. Or how about, I don't have the money? Why didn't you know that before you ever asked them to do business with you? These are areas that are breaking down for most businesses, their owners and their sales associates, that can be fixed when you're working with somebody with a few decades of experience, multi-industry, helping turn those companies and those individuals around. And then, of course, you're going to be able to overcome, I need to think about it, as I stated earlier, we need to talk about it. We never, as I told you at the onset today, Mark, we never make a decision on the first product that we see that we really like. How would you like to have a systematic process right down to the verbiage that will work? And I'll prove it to you. As a matter of fact, you just implement it, you'll prove it to yourself, and you'll be making more sales than ever before. That is how, time and again, I've helped individuals increase their sales 25 to 50%. No exaggeration in that, in the first 3 months, and 100% to 300% over the course of the year. Now, I'm not telling you that there aren't companies and individuals in there that it's taken practice and it may have taken them, 12 months to get to a 50% increase. But I'm going to mention, for example, a pre-need sales division. This was a mortuary, is a mortuary, had been in business for 55 years when they invited me in. Very significant account. And I worked with their team over the course of that 12 months, just 2 hours a week. 2 hours a week. They came through my sales intensive training program, and I met with them 2 hours once a week for the better part of what was 50. It would have been 25 consecutive weeks. No, excuse me, 50 consecutive weeks. And in that, they increased their sales by 65%. Why? They had 55 years industry knowledge. I didn't know their industry. I learned a lot about it, but I know sales, and good sales transitions industry. I had a guy in the automotive industry, wonderful human being, invited me in 20 years ago now, 20 years ago. He said, Mark, fascinating. I've enjoyed the visit. I just got to ask you this though. What can you bring to the table? I have Chevrolet behind, motors behind them, the greatest training imaginable. And I was thrilled that he asked that question. My response to him was, And I called him by name and then stated, I'm glad you asked that question. I'll explain to you. I work with so many different industries, and what I found is that so many of those businesses are chasing the leaders in their industry. And they are chasing those leaders in perpetuity until they get outside of that industry and are exposed to the types of things that I'm exposed to each and every week. And that is techniques and systems and strategies that will cross-pollinate industry to another. And that's why my clients bring me in, because I see things that they're not being exposed to within their industry, even by the industry giants that support them. As a result, my clients become the leaders of their industry. This outfit had one dealership after 23 years in business. In the following few years, they expanded to 6. Overwhelming success. And when the financial crisis hit in 2008, 9, and 10, industry leaders were closing their doors, highly successful dealerships across the country. This company did not miss a step. They didn't lose a store. They continued to expand, very successful today. As a matter of fact, they took over a major manufacturer's line with an independent dealership up in here in northern Utah. And they took that dealership to a 300% growth rate inside of 12 months. Now, I'm not claiming credit for all of that. I'm saying that we lit the fire, we gave them the foundation and helped them get moving with the right mindset, with the right tools and techniques. And as a result of that, their discipline took it to the level that I'm to you today. These are the types of things that we accomplish. One more story, and we're out of time here. All right. And then I promised you an offer, and I keep my promises, and I'll give out my number again. With this final story, I've worked with, like I say, people in the merchant banking industry, major players. I've worked with people in the real estate industry, the automotive industry, advertising, home improvement lines, doesn't matter, kitchen remodeling, bathroom remodeling, new roof, new home construction from the ground up. Young man that I started working with, he was 31, this particular individual, when he started working with me. And he's been at it now independently for 9 years, and he makes over $1 million a year quite consistently. He's done very well. And that is a guy that it was a startup. He was a startup when I met him. As a matter of fact, he hadn't even opened his own business at that point in time. He came to me and asked whether or not he should. You obviously know what my answer was. All right, so here, final story for you. This gentleman was working for a major player in the merchant banking industry, Chase, at a national level. They're high profile accounts. And he was number 12 at the bottom of the list out of his division. In other words, he was the worst out of his division in Southern California. And he came up and he took a training course with me, and then went back home, and we worked on the phone with each other 1 hour each week over the course of the next 6 months. That man, by the time that year was out, was number 1 in his division, number 1 out of 12. And he was number 16 in the United States, number 16 across the entire country. This methodology works. Like I say, you're going to be entitled to, I believe we're providing you with the book, No Bullshit Success. It's 12 coaching sessions to shattering your limitations. And Boyd, that's right. That's the book
Yes,
we're giving away today,
is.
right? Folks, it's a 12-week program. It's going to require some work. Nothing worthwhile comes without effort on our behalf. I think you'd agree with me on that. Fantastic book. I've received phenomenal reviews on it. I've watched it change people's lives, and it's a great foundation to our work together. But No Bullshit Success, 12 coaching sessions to shattering your limitations. And of course, my most recent book, No Bullshit Selling, How to Dominate Your Industry, is available for sale. You can go to markmaxon, myname.com, markmaxon.com, and you can order that copy today, or you can go to Amazon and you can order it there. And I always love that because you qualify for reviews. So you rent, you can get it in Audible, and you can get it on Kindle, whichever you prefer. And a lot of you have memberships which will provide you additional discounts. If you don't, get over to markmaxon.com, save some more money in either the electronic version or the audio version. With all that being said, I promised you I would provide you an opportunity, and that is an hour of my time. An hour of my time extended directly to you. And in that hour, I would propose to you that we move through a discovery analysis of where you've been, where you are, where you'd like to be, where you believe your strengths lie, and where your deficiencies may be. And I will help you identify some of these areas once we move through that discovery together. And I will make some recommendations with your permission or invite that could help you start moving forward on the right track. And if we come to a meeting of the minds, maybe you would like to work with me and see what that would entail. We can discuss that. There's no pressure. Again, I'm very, very selective in who I work with, because I want to work with people who have a positive mindset and are open to new ideas, innovative concepts that are going to make a difference in their life. And together, I've been able to create very successful track records for my clients and myself as a result. So you can be assured, no pressure, just a nice visit. Let's see what we can do for you. Just call me, 801-808-5433. 801-808.
Just put it in the chat, as well as the markmaxon.com.
Wonderful. And get over to the maxongroup.com and listen to those videos. Folks, you may know some of these people. Hear what they have to say about our work together and the great feats that we've accomplished. Anyway, it's been my joy today. God bless you all, and thank you for tuning in. And I truly hope that you've taken away something from this today, from each and every one of us.